Hi.
Hello. Hi, how old are you?
I'm 21.
Wonderful. What would you send a guest request to disagree on?
So I actually agree with everything that you've put up there besides the anti-death penalty. And the only reason I disagree with that is as a victim of SA that has never gotten justice, um I don't think that like little to none jail time is enough for like rapists or uh child offenders.
Yeah,
Um
I appreciate you using TikTok friendly language, by the way. Thank you.
yeah, of
But
course,
as for
but
that, I agree. This specific issue is interesting because I agree that there are like systemic problems with prosecuting SA and things like
right.
that. I agree. But the question isn't whether, we stick with the status quo or we suddenly institute death penalty. The question is what will actually make the status quo better? Because the problem is with prosecution, and then sentencing is a separate step. So I agree
Right.
we really need to change the prosecution system of SA. There are a lot of reforms we can do. And also we can also change the sentencing, right, to increase life in prison. But if we were comparing something like, on an equal prosecutorial basis, where we properly prosecute SAers, or even we improperly prosecute SAers, I don't see the benefit of the death penalty on this. It just doesn't benefit society in any way, to end their life. Um,
Right.
like, what
I
would the
think
benefit you'd suggest? Yeah.
for me, like from a victim standpoint, I think that it's probably one of the worst things that you can do to someone aside from like unaliving them. Um, and for me, it did feel like a death in some way, like a soul or spiritual unalive. So for me, it's like I can totally understand what you're saying, but to me, like these specific groups of people don't have anything positive to contribute to society. And I know that may sound very harsh, but that's just the only thing I disagree with on you here. And like I can respect your opinion. It's just for me, like I guess I have personal experience, so I just like have a different standpoint on it.
Yeah.
Um,
I
but
guess yeah, that's wonderful. I guess the only framing question I could ask you really,
mhm,
would be, from my view, a lot of people feel this way because we have sanitized death and sanitized the unaliving of people.
yeah.
Um, and I think like that's affected our intuitions and our feelings towards it. So what I'm wondering is if it's really about making them feel like you did, or justifying it off of how you did. Would you be comfortable with the government essaying them?
Um, Absolutely not. Which I know it may sound really hypocritical because for me, I'm just like, okay, I would not wish this shit on my worst enemy. It sucks, right? Like your whole life changes. Um, so like that opens a whole nother topic to me where I'm like, I mean, I guess that's already happening in our prisons and jails. Like people are already experiencing that. But for me, it's just like if you do look at the statistics, typically like there is little to no justice, like I said. And then there's another country, I forget, I don't really remember where it was. I think it may be Nigeria, but they started, I don't know if I can say this, they started castrating offenders. And I just feel like, why is America not taking SA as seriously as they should? Because to me, it's like, sorry, go ahead.
There's just a really important distinction here
Mm-hmm.
between increasing sentencing and increasing prosecution,
Right.
right? And I
Oh,
am
for sure.
100% unequivocally for increased. There's lots of programs we can do regarding prosecution.
Mm-hmm.
When we come to sentencing, though, right, we need to justify every sentence that we put out for every crime,
Right.
right? I don't think like we don't need to justify prosecutions. If you broke the law, you broke the law. We should catch you and prosecute you. Point blank,
Mm-hmm.
period, unequivocal. Sentencing, though, we ask a different question because sentencing isn't the same as if you increase the sentences, right, we're not actually going to see that what 98% statistic go down.
Right.
Has nothing.
Right.
The two things have nothing to do with each other,
Mm-hmm.
right? What we might actually see is it go up, because when you increase sentencing, you see some police or prosecutors or judges not as willing to prosecute. That's
Mm-hmm.
a very small effect, but it is true. That's the only way the two things have really anything to do with each other. So I think it's really, really important to not confuse taking sentencing seriously and taking prosecution seriously. And what we're talking about right now is the sentencing guidelines. And when we're setting out sentencing, we really need to justify why we're doing this. If it doesn't benefit society, right? Like the death penalty costs more to society to implement. The death penalty unalives more innocent people, right? So we're putting not only taxpayer money on the line, but we're also putting innocent people's lives on the line. And equivalently, we're actively hurting, right, people that care about the criminals in doing so. So unless we can justify these things, right, it's really a question as to why we would do it at all.
I mean, I guess I can agree with you there. I mean, I've made myself so aware of how many innocent people have faced the death penalty. And it is so sad. I just always think, like, not to sound crazy, but I'm always like, damn, if, the person that changed my whole life, if I could just know that they would never do this to anyone else, because again, the way it is, like, yeah, you can go to prison, but you can get out and just do this shit again, essentially. But I totally understand what you're saying, and I respect what you're saying, and I appreciate everything you're doing. So, but yeah, thanks for letting me up here.
No problem. Well, I appreciate you.
Yeah, have a great day.
You too. What woman thinks that I can protect them? To the comment that asked that. What woman thinks that I can protect them? I'm 5'5", my loves. I mean, I am a college athlete and have competed like in men's gymnastics for the past 12 years. Um, so I could do some damage, but I'm also 5'5". Like, in what delusion do you think that I could protect them against like a fully grown, like tall ass man? Send a guest request if you disagree with any of this. Send a guest request. They're down here. It will be civil, my love. As long as you maintain civility, so will I. Maybe that's a negative about yourself? What is? That I'm short? No. Just means I have to eat less for bigger gains. Hello.
Hi.
Hi, what did you send a guest request to disagree on?
The abortion.
Oh, great.
I'm against.
Um,
Yeah.
why are you against abortion?
Well, because I only agree with it if it's medically necessary or if a woman or a young child has been SA'd and if a grown woman who's willingly, having intercourse and gets pregnant by accidentally, there's always adoption.
Interesting. Okay, so then do you want it to make it illegal?
Well, no, if if any states make this illegal, it's going to be much harder for women to actually go get a safe abortion.
Okay, so you don't want it to make it illegal. You just think it's wrong.
Well, I just think, women, yes, this is our body, absolutely. But if women go get this done unprofessionally, not by a doctor, it's going to be do some serious damage to both her and that baby.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, then we don't have too big of a disagreement. I mean, the question for me really is legality. Um, So if you and I are in agreement there, then that's fine. The only other thing that I would note, and then maybe we can move on, is you said they can always adopt, but abortion right is a solution to pregnancy
Hmm.
and parenthood, but also a solution to pregnancy. And adoption obviously doesn't solve pregnancy, doesn't change that you were unwantedly pregnant. Um, so the adoption discussion is kind of outside of the scope of the abortion
Yeah.
question. Yeah. Well,
No,
anyway,
I
we seem
agree
to
with you.
agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
So I
mean,
appreciate you coming up.
I'm not going to come up here and disrespect women who's done that. That's not my business. But you asked for opinions, and I was just giving my opinion.
Great. Well,
And
I
I,
appreciate your opinion.
yeah, and thank you for listening. And I'm glad that we done this respectfully because I've seen people get rude with people on here, and I'm just like, oh
Yeah,
my
absolutely.
gosh. But but I got a question for
Yeah.
you, if that's all right.
Yeah,
I
that's fine. What's
call
up?
I caught your live a little late. You said you're against abortions, but I'm sorry, you are for abortions, but you're against the death penalty. Why?
Yeah.
Isn't that basically the same thing? I mean, I mean, I know the baby
Yeah.
is not yet a human yet in people, but I mean, I think it is because I have two babies of my own. But from a person who's
Yeah,
been,
that's fine.
Mhm.
So why do I say that?
Yeah,
Well, first of all, there are a few really big differences. First of
okay,
all, my position on abortion is a legal one. You know, it's not really a moral question as to whether I would. And like what I've said for quite a while now is, if I was a woman, right, I probably wouldn't feel comfortable getting an abortion. That's just me, right? I'm not a woman, so the question doesn't really matter whether I think it's moral or not. A lot of my advocacy focused around making sure it's legal. Um, and from my view, I view it the exact opposite as you. I actually think both of them are extremely consistent. One is stopping the government from forcing you to carry a child. One, making sure that the government is smaller and not infringing on your rights to your body. And then the other one, the unaliving, the death penalty, is making sure that the government is smaller and not ending your own life.
hmm,
So I think both of them just have to do with general freedoms, like general freedom. We shouldn't have the government telling us what to do with our body and violating it in like entirely unjustified ways.
okay,
Yeah. Well, hey, I appreciate you coming up. I think I'll
hmm,
probably move on to the next guest.
okay.
But thank you so much for contributing.
How do I?
I got
I
you.
don't know how to. Okay.
Keep on sending those likes, everyone.
Hello, you hear me?
Hello.
You hear me
Yeah, I
good?
can hear you loud and clear.
Okay, thank you. Okay. For example, with abortion, where's your cutoff? You know, where do you think is the right, point in the pregnancy for a woman to get an abortion? Is it like 7 to 8 weeks, 20 to 20 to 24 weeks? Like, where would you draw
Yeah,
the line?
so my position is that induction of labor ought be allowed at any point in the pregnancy, right? Which
Mhm.
includes the usage of the abortion pill or pills like it all throughout pregnancy. But the point at which abortions otherwise would be used, I think it's primarily a medical question. And I pretty much agree with the current medical establishment that we should only really use directly lethal abortions post viability in the case of medical necessity.
Oh, okay. So, do you value like sentience, for example? Like if the
I
fetus
could
is like,
start valuing the child at conception, and I would still have the exact same position that I have.
oh, okay, so all right, that's all I wanted to know. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Anyway, thank you so much for everyone sending likes. We got 230 people on here, which is pretty hefty, so I appreciate it. Hello.
Hi,
Hi, how old are you?
I'm I am 41. I'm on my daughter's account. I don't know how to log out of it. But I'm
Wonderful. Well, yeah. Would you send a guest request to disagree with me?
pro-life. Pro-life. I'm pro-life.
Oh, great. Why are you pro-life?
Yeah, because I have a heart, and I think cutting up a baby is wrong.
Wonderful. That was a delightful answer. Do you know how most abortions are done?
Yeah, they cut them up.
That's not true. While we figure out the Wi-Fi, most abortions are done with the abortion pill, right? Which involves stopping, the mother's nutrients and mother's body from going into the
Uh-huh.
child, and then expelling it from the mother, right? It's drastically different. And my position generally comes down to, well, the only time they cut up a child, a fetus in utero, is when it's medically necessary, right? By and large, that's when they do it. And I think
Yeah,
both you and I agree that we should be able to save the mother if
yeah,
her life is at. Yeah,
yeah. I
so
agree with that.
yeah. So let's just not be disingenuous. It's not cutting up a child, the cases that we're talking about. And if it is, we would have an agreed upon position there. What we're talking about is the usage of the abortion pill and similar pills like it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so the point is why we should force the mother to give her body to her child, right? Why would we force a mother outside the womb to give a liver or a kidney or a blood or a stem cells, right? Why would we force her to do that? Well, we want it. So why would inside the womb would we force her to maintain giving those things to that child? That's my question. So why do you think that the government has the right? Why do you have the right to tell a woman who to give her body to?
I don't.
Then why are you pretending you do? Why are you exercising that right that you don't have?
Because I have a heart and I just think a baby has a right to live.
Great. So do you think that a child has a right to live as well?
Yes.
So would you tie a woman down and force her to give a kidney to her child if it would save the child?
No.
Okay, so clearly the right to life doesn't include other people's things in order to live. My right to life doesn't include any of your stuff. My right to life doesn't include any of my mother's stuff, especially her body. So why are you saying that it does in utero? Are you giving the fetus extra rights?
Yeah, because it's a baby.
So do you think babies have extra rights?
Should I kill a baby if it's newborn? Like they want
Should
to
you kill
kill a
a
baby,
child if it's newborn?
like if the born alive. Do you agree with that?
Wait, so should you kill a child? Like, what? Like, that's not an extra right. Don't you believe in equal rights?
Yeah,
Okay, so then let's work on equal rights. You're not giving equal rights to children. You're giving extra rights to fetuses. Why?
because it's a baby. Fetus stands for unborn
You're
babies.
giving extra, not equal. I'm saying, so do you believe fetuses and children have equal rights?
Yes,
Great. Then if a child is not entitled to the mother's body, a fetus is not entitled to the mother's body.
I'm sorry, I'm confused.
So you're saying a child is not entitled to their mother's kidney, liver, stem cells, but you are saying that a fetus is entitled to a mother's body, right, through the womb, through the umbilical
Yeah,
cord, etc. Okay.
yeah.
But if you believe in equal rights, okay, this cannot be true because they would then not be equal.
I'm stuck. um,
Yeah, you're stuck because it's wrong, right? Is when I actually humanize this for you, right? When I describe to you that you are literally enslaving women's bodies, right? You can't justify it, right? Because obviously tying a woman down to give her kidney or liver or stem cells to her child would be wrong and entirely an authoritarian view, right? But the right-wing pro-life movement has indoctrinated you to believe that it's anything other than that, which it is precisely that. You are forcing a woman to give her body to her child. I don't know how you can feel comfortable with that.
well, my daughter's 16. She's pregnant right now. Luckily, she wants her baby. And if she was having to kill my grandbaby, I wouldn't know how I would handle that.
So you feel sad, therefore, enslave women. I don't think that feeling sad is a good enough reason for you to enslave women.
I don't know.
The thing is like, okay, I imagine you're right wing. Y'all purport to support liberties, right? But this is one of the largest
Yeah.
violations of liberties that you possibly could engage in, right? You are telling people what to do with their bodies.
So I'm
Why?
telling my daughter not to kill her baby. I'm doing it wrong.
I think if you were to tie your daughter down and force her to give a kidney to her child, that would be wrong. Yes. So I equivalently think that you forcing her, or if you advocate the government forcing her not to maintain a pregnancy, which is necessarily a transfer of her body, that is also wrong.
Why don't they just give the baby up for adoption? That's what I'm telling her to do.
That's fine. That doesn't solve pregnancy, though. You understand that pregnancy and parenthood are different.
Yeah.
Yeah. So doesn't matter. It's not relevant.
Okay.
Do you have anything else to say?
No.
Wonderful. Well, I appreciate coming up, and I hope you,
All right.
I don't know, change your mind.
Thank you. Bye.
Peace out. Keep on sending guest requests down here. Be great. Hello, Dawn.
What it do? How are you?
I'm doing real well. I saw you in guest requests previously. I don't know what happened there. What'd you send a guest request to disagree on?
Could you actually go back to the screen that had disagreements?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, what's your position on each individual topic so I can know if
I am
what
a
you mean?
feminist. I am pro-choice. I am an agnostic atheist. I believe trans men are men, and I'm anti-death penalty.
Okay, but obviously each one of these have contextual things to them. So when you say feminist, what exactly do you mean?
So I believe I support and advocate a movement that advocates that gender should not be considered in social or legal conceptions.
Social and legal conceptions. When you
Yep.
say social, what do you mean exactly?
Regarding society or social settings.
Okay, interesting. Okay, more on that. So you mean exactly that? Could
Do
you
you
elaborate?
disagree, Don?
I'm trying to know your position to be able to disagree.
Well,
So
do
when you
you
say
disagree with what I've said thus far?
you really didn't say anything thus far. So when you say feminist,
I have.
I'm
So normal English understand. I'm not gonna go down 10 questions so you can understand. I think the sentence I said made sense. The words I said have meaning. Giving them their normal English meaning, right? Do you disagree?
so far no, because you didn't give a real position yet. That's what I'm trying to understand.
Well, I
So
did
just
give
like
a real position. I advocate that gender should not be considered in social or legal conceptions. If you agree with that, very cool. Where do you think a disagreement could be found, Don?
legal, I actually don't think there would be a disagreement. When you say social, that's what I'm trying to understand, which is
Great. So
what
when
you
you said you didn't disagree, something changed here. What do you mean? Where do you think the disagreement? Can you give me an example or your position?
maybe the dynamics of relationships, but I don't know if that encompasses your idea of social. Social norms, gender roles, things like that, maybe.
Let's talk about gender roles.
Okay, talk to me. Oh, you want to know?
Expand on that.
All right. Gender roles. Do you believe that, generally speaking, women should be doing, I guess, women gender role things, and men should be doing generally men things?
No.
Okay, talk to me then. So, what do you mean?
I don't see a justification for that. I don't see why they would.
Okay, so if you are, I guess, a person that hires people for, I don't know, let's say sports, for example, you don't believe that the gender would play a role in you hiring them for sports?
I mean, is it a sports? Is it a sex segregated sport?
No, it's just a sport
Okay, if
that
it's not a
was.
sex segregated sport, then no, I wouldn't consider gender
Okay, why?
because it's irrelevant to the question.
How so? Okay, let me just paint a better picture, I guess. If you had to,
Great.
if you had to pick a team of, like I said, the same exact example of a sports team that had to let's say, play soccer, would you not consider their gender or synonymously sex?
Well, that's obviously not synonymous, but if you're referencing the way in which it is, just their sex, would I consider their sex? No, I would consider their actual factual physical characteristics. I think sex can be relevant to some things, right? If I was in, SW, right, that would be relevant. If I was, someone is like a condom model, yeah, that would be relevant. But that's the question regarding gender is their identity and orientation. And by and large, identity and orientation isn't going to be referenced within sports. And equivalently, if you're talking about sex within sports, sex doesn't seem to be the best predictor of their accomplishments. Their previous accomplishments, I think, would be a clearly better predictor of their accomplishments. And when I'm hiring someone, I would just have that information. So I'm saying I have much better information to go off than someone's sex.
Mm, okay, I think that's a little bit disingenuous. Because even if they did have a good position, let's say she was let's use sex, so let's go with that. Let's say she was actually a good, decent player, but another guy wasn't as good as she was. You wouldn't think that if you was to train the guy, he would be actually better than the female over, I don't know, a week, a month,
You
or
accused
whatever
me of
time.
being disingenuous. What was disingenuous about what I said?
You keep saying that you would not take in consideration their sex. I say I would think that that would be disingenuous.
Because you disagree.
Yes, because everyone would consider their sex when it comes to physical attributes.
I could just look at their past progress.
I get that. That's why
Once
I'm
again,
trying
I
to
have
pose a
better
very
information.
that's why I'm trying to pose a very specific question
No, their past
particular to.
progress, right? Oh, yeah, I could train them better. Well, let's look at their growth when I trained them,
Wait, what?
or their growth when they were trained previously, right?
What
Like,
if it wasn't trained previously?
what?
What if there wasn't trained previously?
If they, what? Are we talking about like finding the best athletes that have never, wait, you're hiring athletes that have never trained before?
Okay, they have trained before, but they haven't trained a great deal amount. Maybe one is in college and the other one is in high school. So
And you're
one trained,
hiring them?
yes, for whatever reason,
Then you
for
could
whatever,
look at, once again, you could just look at the differential. You could do the derivative
which is
of their data. Like you look at their past data, and then you look at the derivative of their data. Like, what are you talking about? Growth is a derivable information. And
mm,
also growth, like, once again, there's better information to go off other than someone's sex. Lots and lots of things affect someone's growth that aren't immediately apparent with their sex.
that's true. I agree with that. But sex does play a very vital role when it comes to physical attributes. So that's what I'm getting at when
Yeah,
I
and
said
I
that.
don't really disagree with that, right? But once again, there are better things to look at in the vast majority of cases. And if what you're getting at, Don, is that there are sexual differences, I agree that there are sex differences and that those sex differences are sometimes relevant. But I think you're incredibly, I don't know, ambitious in attempting to make them relevant to a lot of things, right? That's why I pointed out a few examples where I certainly would consider sexual characteristics. A condom model. Yeah, great, cool, right? That's helpful. Lots and lots of things could reference sex. But once again, when we're actually looking at athletic performance or people's physical abilities, we can just look at their physical abilities. Their sex isn't nearly as relevant. That's a secondary sexual characteristic that actually has a lot more to do with other things than their sex. But as to the actual question of gender, why would I consider gender? Why would I consider one's identity and orientation, right, rather than just physically what they are?
If you want to talk about that, that's a different topic. But if you want to talk about that, we can.
It's not a different
So
topic, right? I mean,
no,
you said you
I
disagreed with me socially, right, regarding the relevance of genders, right? And then you transitioned to sex when you know that that's not what I said. That's what we
no,
call
no.
being disingenuous.
No, I was being very specific with my word and my context, which is to, so I
Yeah,
made it very
specific, but
clear
you
about
being
that.
specific and you being disingenuous are not mutually exclusive.
Yes, they are. Because if I stated
They aren't. I
if
can be specifically disingenuous. That's just not true.
moving the goalposts right now, let's calm down. I said to make
Well,
it
no, no, no.
clear.
We're not going to do that. I'm not heated. I'm not emotional, right? If you want to engage in that shit, right, you can leave. But I'm perfectly calm. Everyone can perfectly well see that, Don. What I said was you being specific and you being disingenuous is not mutually exclusive. And if you disagree, you just don't know what either of those words mean.
No, again, if I am making the context more clearly, that's not being disingenuous. That's making the context of the scenario that I gave you more clear.
Yeah, but part 10, if that's not what was relevant, I wasn't saying that you were only being specific, right? Or you were only being disingenuous. I can say you perfectly well can be disingenuous and specific. You saying, oh, well, this is the context of what I was saying, doesn't preclude you from being disingenuous. And what I said was being disingenuous was we were having a discussion about gender, right? And then you started talking about the consideration of sexual attributes, right? Which I engaged in, right? To engage and to entertain. But that's not really the question. We're talking about gender within society and gender roles, right? Because I think you don't actually have a real argument for gender roles. Why do you believe that we should put women in certain places and men in certain places, right? Rather than just putting people in the places that they are best at.
Well, that wasn't my original question, but we can go down this road. Um, So to answer that question, I would actually change the question just slightly. I would say, yes, I do agree what you said earlier that the indicators of success will actually be indicators of success, obviously. But I do think that your sex, that's why I'm going to keep saying sex, because when I'm talking to different people on this platform, you guys use gender and sex as something that's actually different. That's why I had to clarify sex, not gender.
You
So
weren't
you guys,
clarifying, you were changing. But
it's
when
the
I
same.
ask a question, so when I ask a question, and then you just fundamentally change the question, the concept that's being referenced, right? You can disagree with my definitions, Don, but that doesn't permit you to misrepresent the question that I asked.
I got you. But then we would have to go down the road of exactly what you mean when you say gender, exactly what you mean when you say this, exactly what you
No,
mean when
I
you say
no, you don't, because you understand. No, 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 we wouldn't though, because you disagree, but you understand. You know what
no,
I'm talking about.
no.
I
I'm gonna
don't
be
think
honest.
this is weaponized ignorance because you know what I'm talking about, right? You just disagree, and that's fine. You can disagree. You can. I mean, you're wrong, but you can disagree. The point is you know what we're talking about, though, right? That's how you're able to articulate disagreements with it. So I
No,
don't pretend you don't.
no.
So answer the question that I asked. Why do you believe women should be in one place and men should be in the other, rather than just have people be in the places that they are best at?
Because being in the place that you're best at is, again, I don't know which word to use, and that's why I say this is actually kind of.
Gender. That's what I. It's not confusing or complicated, right? You answer the question that I asked. You don't make up your own.
Well, I wanna make sure that I'm using gender in the right way. This is my overall point. My overall point is I don't know exactly how you guys use gender. So with me personally, I use gender and sex synonymously. They are the same thing pretty much to me. So when I go fall into your frame of saying gender, then you may change the definition of something that I actually don't agree with.
Then just
And
specifically define it. So when you say gender, you mean sex. Cool.
yes,
That's
yes.
fine.
Okay. So now
Once
to
again, this
answer your
doesn't have to be like a long-winded BS. Like we use the definitions that we use and just clarify and specify them if it's relevant. I use gender in the normal English sense, right, which would be the social ramifications and the social sex in a social construct, sex in a social context, right? So
cool.
sex is constructions built around sex by society.
Okay, cool. Got you. Now we're getting somewhere. So now the question that you asked was, why do I not believe a person shouldn't be at their best versus what their gender roles is, correct?
I I think there were about three double negatives there, but yeah, kind of.
Okay, all right, got you. All right, I would say because of the potential of the person not being in the right position. For example, if the person does have a good, I don't know, track record of doing well in a position, this is why I gave the example of sports, because obviously depending, not even depending on sports. Generally speaking, men are better at sports or physically than women are, capability
Certainly,
wise.
depending on what sport.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I wouldn't if it involves a lot of physical activity, I wouldn't say so. But if you want to harp on that, we can definitely
Depends which
stay.
type of physical activity. I mean, women are better at rifling, which is a physical activity. I mean, women are better at women's gymnastics, which is a distinct and separate sport from men's gymnastics. Women are better than men in quite a lot of sports. This is something I think gets lost in this debate a lot and shouldn't be glossed over. Women are better at certain sports, by and
Okay.
large.
I would actually agree with you with the rifling. I don't know the statistics of that, so I can only follow back to what you're saying is true. When it comes to women's gymnastics, I would have to agree with that as well because obviously there's going to be a completely different sport. So I have to concede to those two, but I do not concede to overall when it comes to physical, I guess performance, running, jumping, hurdling, um, any of that nature, throwing, etc. Any sports that deals with those types of nature is going to be contingent on males dominating that sport. Can we both agree on that?
Yeah, but like, who cares?
Okay. Well, no, that matters, right? So now keep going. So when it comes to certain things, let's say for example, you have one of those sports that are throwing, pushing, jumping, etc., and you have a woman that actually does phenomenally well. Let's say she does really, really well. She's in the top 10% of that arena. But then you have a man that's in the top 30% of that arena, and you can train him better than I guess his coach can train him to get him much actually faster to grow more than what the woman is. Wouldn't that be something that you would take into consideration?
Wait, but like, this is just or like women and men could have different training speeds as well. Like, there are plenty of women that train easier and better than men do, than certain men.
Well, okay, so I'm gonna put this very, very simply. Bottom line, if you had to choose, or let's just, I don't know, just throw out any
Wait, no, do
sport.
you don't disagree with that, Don? That there are certain women that would train better and easier than certain men. I don't think anyone conceivably disagrees with that.
It depends on the context of what it is, and if you talk
No,
about
just
majority,
speaking in an absolute statement, there exist women who would train better and easier, right, in those examples that you gave, right, than certain men.
true.
I'm working on the exact same context you are, Don.
Okay, then I just said true. Yes.
Yeah, great. Cool.
Okay.
Then once again, we should determine it based on actual ability to train, right, rather than perceived or predicted, right, based on their sex. Because once again, we have better and more factors to consider.
Got you. So that's why I'm posing a very simple question now. All right. You have a team of people that's going to fight each other, and you don't know their attributes of what do they do before they train it, etc. You because at the beginning of this talk you said that sex, well, you said gender. My bad. I'm sorry. You said the gender does not matter when it comes to you choosing them or not. So I'm painting a very simple contextual.
Didn't say gender didn't matter, but
Huh?
yeah, that's fine. I
Okay,
said that we
gotcha.
shouldn't consider.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Okay, cool. So
And once
when
again,
it
I've said that sexual differences do matter in certain contexts and can be taken into account in certain contexts. I'm just saying, by and large, we have better factors to consider. So if your question is, well, what if sex is the only factor contextually that you have, right? I'm going to say, yeah, it would be, you can consider it. I've already answered this question 3 times, Don.
Okay, cool. So I just want to make sure we clear on this question
I
that
don't
you
know
would
how we
actually.
could be clearer when I repeat it 4 times, right? Like, that's where I view disingenuity. I've answered it. You know that I would consider gender in certain contexts, right? Say
No,
something
I
interesting.
got you. I'm talking about in that particular situation. So now, when it comes to the whole overall, when it comes to feminism, you're talking about third wave, you're talking about second wave, first wave, etc. Which one are you more so? You are you
I'd
cool
consider
with all
myself
of them?
just an intersectional feminist. I don't love the terminology of first, second, third. Certainly not first wave, though.
Okay, got you. Okay, all right, we get somewhere. Let's go. All right, so when it actually comes to just, I guess, being you said legal and societal reasons of being, I guess, equal opportunity, is that where you more so coming from?
Generally, relevancy of gender, right? I'm a gender abolitionist as a whole, and that first becomes deinstitutionalizing it.
Okay, cool. So okay, then I would actually agree 80%. I think where the disagreements is the societal gender roles, etc. That's where the disagreement actually comes from. Because I do think
What does that look like for you?
that
Give me
looks
a
like
gender
for
role.
man, I don't know. I don't know. Men leading. This was a question. This was
Why would
actually.
men be leaders?
Hold on. This was an actual debate that I had with, I believe his name was Parker, and it was crazy because me and him was going at it. But so now let me hear the question that you asked. You said why would say that one more time?
Yeah, why would men be leaders? If anything, the sexual differences would lead to women being better leaders.
Okay, why do you say that?
I mean, because there's consistent data showing that women, by and large, are both socialized and genetically better at responding to emergencies in calm manners, have higher emotional intelligence, and also lead men in academia.
Okay, I like the last two that you said. I actually agree. I have to agree with those two because they are true. The first one you said was what again?
Responding to emergencies calmly.
I disagree with that. So
Mm.
in general, when it comes to actual emergencies, when it comes to actual real life scenarios, I think, as well as the data shows, that generally speaking, policemen, military, fighter fighters, etc., they excel in those versus women do.
I mean, this is an irrelevant question because we can just look at the data, can't we?
And to the person
Right.
that's
So the
saying,
first thing that comes up the first thing that comes up is a Science Daily record, is a Science Daily article that references the University of Colorado at Boulder, and it says that women tend to take cover or prepare to evacuate sooner, but often have trouble convincing men in their life to do so. So, I mean, the University of Colorado at Boulder suggests that women, by and large, are not only prepared better, right, but also take cover and respond to emergency more effectively. And actually, the issue that comes up is convincing men to do so. This is a case study. There's another case study published in PubMed, the National Library of Medicine, and they show that this references the role of gender in preparedness and response behaviors to a specific flood risk in Siberia. And it found that women, by and large, had both engaged in more emergency management and preparedness for emergencies, but also responded more quickly when the floods did happen. So in light of current findings, men seem to be more confident in their abilities, but women displayed a deeper understanding of the events and responded better, in fact. So men had confidence, but they were wrong.
Okay, I definitely want to actually look up that study myself so I can study that myself. But yeah, if that sounds right and you read it, directly from the source, then I have to agree with it as far as right now. So when it comes to leadership, though, I think you gave very specific examples of things of crises when it comes to, you said one was flooding and the other one was, I think you said, well, they both was natural disasters, to be honest. But more so when it comes to leadership of government or leaderships of relationships or leadership when it comes to gender roles of the two sexes and the dynamics of the two sexes, would you disagree that men by and large are better leaders?
Yeah, I would.
Ooh, why?
I'd say, once again, if anything, women are. I think by and large, sex is going to be a very small factor in this. But basically, all the data shows consistently that women would be better. Once again, we'd reference emotional response, and then we can just look at the data, right? Women CEOs in companies tend to perform better in terms of growth and economic development. Women leaders of countries have more successful countries in times of emergency and in times of peace. There's just a huge amount of data that shows
I
that
believe.
across the board, not only are women better at leading, right, but they have the results to show it.
Mm, I wholeheartedly. Okay, what did we say was the number one country in United? I'm sorry, in the world.
In what capacity?
Mm, Um, Great question. Let's say
I mean, because
economically.
GDP growth is in the past 30 years, the US isn't. In terms of freedom, the US isn't. In terms of COVID response, the US isn't, right? In terms of world leadership and human rights violations, the US is not. In terms of democracy and democratic rating, the US is not, right? You know, what's the question here? In terms of nominal GDP, the world isn't. In terms of the U.S. isn't. In terms of GDP per capita, the U.S. isn't. I
We say
don't.
GDP growth.
What?
We can say GDP growth, growth.
Yeah, no. GDP growth in the past 30 years is not. We've been stacking behind. Actually, China specifically has a higher GDP growth for the past 30 years than we do.
Okay, cool. That's what I'm not even trying to trap or nothing like that. I'm just asking for clarification. What would you say is the number one country when it comes to GDP growth? You said
I
China,
mean,
correct?
yeah, this is just a market statistic. Country with highest GDP growth. Growth rate. Oh, okay. Guyana.
Guyana. So like, what is that? China area, Asia.
Guyana. So
Is that
formerly British Guyana, based in South America, bordering. Is Guyana in the middle? So it would be bordering French Guyana and the other formerly Dutch one, as well as it would be bordering Brazil. So,
okay? So overall, I know you said China first, and then
Suriname. Sorry,
okay, got you.
that's what.
And then, all right. So overall, when it comes to actually these countries, China is actually dominating the world as we know it as we speak right now. And
By
in
what?
China,
By what metric?
by what metric?
Yeah, like I presented you the actual data. By what metric are you referencing, actually?
The metrics of taking over land, buying the most amount of land.
Buying the most amount of land?
Yeah, sending out loans, etc. China's going to be a
Wait,
very
what
powerful.
land are they buying?
Okay,
China
maybe.
isn't buying external land.
What are you talking about? Yes, they are.
No, the Belt and Road Initiative doesn't transfer ownership of basically any land. At least it hasn't yet.
Okay, maybe. You just have to look up some data, but they are buying a lot of
No,
land.
I actually know this point very well, right? Because it's a very common right-wing talking point. It's just not true, right? What they've done is they've given loans that give them a lease, give them a lien on land.
Mhm. Okay, well, if you want to go down, we can say that. Okay. Point is, a lot of these countries that have, and you said Guyana, right? Guyana was the
Guyana.
country. Guyana, my bad. Guyana. So Guyana, is that a male leadership place or is that a female leadership place or?
Don't
And
actually know. It's
huh?
led by a man. It's led by a, let's see, native of Trinidad and Tobago. Yeah. He's also Muslim. Lovely.
Okay.
So,
All right. Because I'm really not trying to
Irfan
pivot.
Ali.
Yeah, I'm trying to stay on the same exact topic, so I'm not trying to pivot. But I'll just say my position and you can just try to destroy it, whatever. But my position is very simple. In the places where you are optimal, your sex matters and is sex dependent. So a woman can be a fighter, a woman can be a policeman, a woman can do everything a man can do, and I would say a man can probably do everything a woman can do, but you will not be optimal in that position if
So
you are
I'm going to
doing.
hit back with I'm going to hit back with the place in which you are optimal is the place in which you are optimal. So I think that's the counter statement I'm going to make is, yeah, we can look at trends. That's cool. Trends are great. I would love to look at actual data with you. But there's a much easier sentiment here, which is that the place that is best is the place that is best, and that is unique to each person. And when we have stringent and limiting social constructs like gender roles, we see a lot more harm done than good, right? Because people aren't willing to let go of them in the exceptional cases, when the exceptional cases actually kind of look like mostly normal cases. But once this is, and they also lead to just false beliefs, like by you, which is the idea that women leaders are better, and done by fallacious arguments, right?
Men lead.
It isn't true. It isn't true that even if the top 100 countries in the world, right, were ran by men, it wouldn't mean that men are the best leaders. It's just not true. That would be like going back 200 years, right? And saying, oh, well, look at all these leaders in colonies and across Africa and across, South America and across the Americas. They're all white. White people must be the best leaders. No, obviously there's been a huge campaign throughout the few thousand years that suggests women aren't the best leaders, and actively stop women from engaging in politics and feeling motivated and feeling empowered to do so. So the idea that the way it is currently has actual impact on this doesn't. It's not actually a good theory. The better theory would be to look at women leaders by comparison to men leaders and see which one does better. And when we engage in that, right, we see that women actually perform better by and large, right? We can compare the accomplishments of Jacinda Ardern and like Merkel, Angela Merkel, and such like that, and see that they were incredibly significant and actually quite bipartisan leaders. And we can look at the economic growth under them. We can look at the economic growth of South Korea under a female president by comparison to a male president, right? Just this data that actually is relevant seems to support that women would be better leaders.
Okay. Fair point. That's actually a really fair point. My overall, and then let me go down to when it comes to relationships. You don't believe that men are the better leaders of relationships?
Once again, I mean, it's kind of irrelevant to me, isn't it? Because, then both of us would be leaders. But regarding leadership in relationships, I don't think most relationships should be based on a hierarchy. So no, I don't think anyone's a better I don't think anyone should be a leader in a relationship. But once again, if there were to be, I'd say that by and large, women would be better ones, right? Because once again, by and large, they have much lower abuse. Like they're much less likely to be abusers. They're much more likely to have higher emotional intelligence. By and large, they are more educated than men. So, any relevant metric would suggest the opposite.
I would actually disagree with you wholeheartedly. And here's why. When it comes to actual relationships, typically speaking, women actually prefer men that are superior to them. They have, what's the word I'm actually want to use? Yeah, superior. That's the only word I can use. I don't want to offend anybody, but they typically choose someone that is actually superior to them. Height, education, money, status, competency, experience, etc. So if you was to actually compare relationships, typically speaking, even age, by the way, if you were to compare relationships with relationships, generally speaking, the man is more superior than a woman. So how could you not have a hierarchy? To me, that actually doesn't make sense. I know a lot of people say relationships.
This is really simple. A few things. First of all, just because women prefer it doesn't mean that that's what happens. And second of all, men prefer people that are better than them as well. So
in what capacity? Except for looks.
Attractiveness.
That's what I said before. Except for
you referenced height. Wait, no, Don. But that's That's actually disingenuous because we're comparing apples to apples here. You referenced height, did you not?
I referenced like 10 things, and height was one of them. Yes.
One of which was height, right?
Yes.
Yeah, great. That's a physical attractiveness quality, and it's very clear, right? If it's relevant to your argument, it's relevant to mine. And also, they can have different ways in doing this, right? Like men could have, I forget what it's called. It's like social climbing or something like that. There's an incel term for it. But basically, yeah, women do prefer people with higher status than them, but men certainly prefer women that are more attractive than they are. That's very clearly what the data shows. The physical attractiveness question doesn't actually match over to women. But equivalently, men do have a preference for wealthier women. Like if you ask them, that's not true. But if you actually look at dating, like there's really, really good studies on this. People have studied this extensively, looking at dating apps and the information that you can have here, right? Hinge, I believe, released, and Bumble has multiple really effective ones. And there are differences in dating patterns between men and women. The first thing we need to say is that those differences don't always actually track on to what relationships actually look like. They're just preferences. But secondarily, it's not like men don't have this exact same pattern of behavior with physical attractiveness. Women are 100% less drawn to people that are much more physically attractive than men are in that way.
I agree with that. I actually agree with that, and I would keep the same statement that you had when you said synonymous with the height. I agree with that, and attractiveness. I agree with that. But also the other indicators that I gave. What about those?
Great. I mean, in terms of wealth, men also prefer that their women is more wealthy. The only thing that you see here really is and actually men also prefer women of higher status, by the way.
Well, hold on,
All of
hold on.
those,
I want to clarify your
all of
position.
those are true.
Hold on. I
It's
want to
just not
clarify.
to the same extent. I will. So what I'll give you, Don, is that it's just not to the same extent. Is
No, I do
women
want to. I do want
tend
to
to
clarify.
devalue. Women tend to devalue physical attractiveness, right? In terms of it, by comparison to status, whereas men tend to hypervalue physical attractiveness as opposed to social status.
Okay, but I want to actually clarify. When you say they tend to go for women that have high status too, do you mean higher status than other women, or you mean higher status than themselves?
Both. If you give them two women, right, one of which has higher status than the other, they're going to choose the woman with higher status. If you give them two women, one of which is lower status than them and one of which is higher status than them, they're going to choose the woman with higher status again.
With
That's
everything
what the
being
data shows.
with everything being equal, yes, I would actually agree. But generally speaking, they actually don't care
Then that's
that.
the only way we have this discussion. Yeah, is this how they consider these factors? Yes.
Okay. Let me just paint a better picture and then we can end this. So, with you personally, what would you consider a human to be a better human? And I don't mean better in the sense of morals. I don't mean better in the sense of they're worth more or they're anything less of a human or anything else like that. But when it comes to actual, I guess, success in society, what would be indicators of that for you personally?
Indicators of success within society.
Yes.
There are huge. I mean, we could go through a plethora of them, right? High power job positions, right? High wealth, high familial connections, high education. Those are all patterns of success within society. But once again, it's extremely contextual, right? Patterns of success within prison will look very, very different than patterns of success, in high school, or patterns of success in New York, or etc.
Of course, of course, of course. I'm still staying on the same topic of the relationship thing. That's why I just asked that question. So, in the
Yeah.
context of the things that you just gave, they tend to be things that actually women care about, that they want superiority in, versus men only seem to only care about physical when it comes to better themselves, which I said before. I'll actually give you that. So, when it comes to actual better than themselves, they want someone who is better societal rise, that has more experience, that has more success, that has more everything. So how could you not develop a hierarchy when you have two people that are not equal?
Wait, but repeating the question doesn't make it proper. Like, doesn't make it true. I've already addressed to you why this is not true. First of all, right, there's a difference between dating preferences and relationships that actually occur.
I agree with that.
Do we understand that distinction? You're assuming that because women prefer this, that is what happens. And that's not a justified assumption.
That's generally what happens. 90% of alimony is paid from.
I mean, that's not the justified assumption. So there's a distinction between what they prefer and what they don't, and also, Don, like, obviously, right? Obviously, that's not what would happen, right? So when all men are going for the attractive women, they have their choice of men, right? And if they are valuing status, they're going to get the higher status one. Men don't have the same choice. They're going to go for whomever happens, right? We can go into why there might be a distinction between preferences and what ends up happening. Actually, it has a lot to do with, like, just very basic, like, kind of market mechanics of that. In terms of preferences, it's just not what you see. But secondarily, I've already said to you that this isn't true. Men also prefer a woman who is higher in status than they are, right? They just prefer it less than women do. So the question would be, in order to make your reality true, right? But actually, a few things. Like, we can answer the question pretending that this delusion is true. But in order to make this delusion true, you would need to prove to me that that's difference in preference, right? So the woman wanting it maybe 10, 20% more, caring about it 10, 20% more, right, than men, actually ends up affecting their relationships such that you get very, very misaligned pairs. But to answer within this reality where this is true, still, right, a man could have a marker of success that doesn't translate to efficient relationships, right? Like, being a mother is not a marker of success within our society, by and large. And women actually prefer, by and large, that they aren't mothers, right? Whereas women do prefer their fathers. Like, we can go into that data. But markers of success, mothers don't fall into that in our society. I think that's wrong, but that just is what the data shows, is that they don't have that same, the preference things don't actually work that way. And doing like taking care of your siblings, those aren't markers of successes. These are very shallow, obvious things that we consider markers of success. And those type of things, being a mother, being an older sibling that takes care of your children, taking care of your like dying mother or something like that, those things and the emotional intelligence that are built with them, that would certainly track onto a relationship. Then maybe you would have an argument. But by and large, once again, women are in those positions of caretaking. So this is where the argument flips on its head. By and large, women would actually be more experienced in this way. And once again, this doesn't. So that's one response. The markers of success don't translate to the markers of success within relationships. The second one is there are an equal amount of successful women as there are successful men. This must pair out some way, right? Like they will be paired, right? If there are 100 men and 100 women, they're going to be paired, right? Unless we're kind of talking about single people, but if we exclude single people from this, they're going to be paired together, which means that in half of these, the women will be more high class, and in the other half, men will be, right? Even if that's not the preference, it's the way that it must turn out. So
I disagree, broski. I think what's happening now is you see that a lot of women are just hyper fixated on the top 20% of men, and they jump around from D to D, hoping to get in a relationship with them. In actuality, they're just using or getting used. And then by the time they're 30, 35, etc., that's when they actually settle down with, I guess, a person that they deem is not, I guess, they don't deserve, or they call dating
women
down
are jumping around from D to D?
to the top 10, 20%. That's why I said I disagree. Yes.
Wait, so that's why women are by and large less promiscuous than men? What?
No. Hold on. Don't try to
women are
don't
less
try to put words in my
promiscuous than
mouth.
men.
No, Will, don't try to put words in my mouth.
But no, I'm not putting words in your mouth. What you said was nonsense. If anyone is jumping around, it is men. They are more promiscuous.
That's actually false. No, they're not.
What?
The top 20%, yes, but the lower, I guess the average or even the lower average is not getting sex like that. Or I don't know if you can say sex on live right now, but they're not getting play like that.
Absolutely they are. Wait, no. The average man, right, is more promiscuous.
That's Will, that's actually just false.
This is an incel talking point. It's just not true, right? The average man is more promiscuous.
Hold on. You have Google right there in front of you. Just look it up.
Okay, great.
Talking. While he's doing that, everyone like the live. Smash that like, double tap it, double tap it. Someone said not him promoting you. Again, not liking the live for me, you liking the live for Will.
Let's get some data up here.
Well, here's some data. 1 in 3 men are virgins or have had sex in the past year.
What?
I said, here's some data. 1 in 3 men are either a virgin, that's between the ages of, 18 to 20, I think it was 18 to 25, are either a virgin or haven't had sex in the past year.
Okay. What's the data for women?
I didn't look, but I guarantee you they're not V's, virgins.
Wait, okay, so if it's not comparative data, it doesn't matter.
All right, where's my laptop? Where's my fuck?
Like, yeah, if your argument is just here's a thing that was found, right, and it's not comparative, like.
I agree. You're right. No, you're right on that. You're right.
Let's see what Wikipedia has to say. It's actually really hard to get a direct article on this.
No, you're right. I had to look this up on one debate, so I was like, damn, it's hard to fucking look at this shit. By and large, we can both agree, even if the data is, I guess, even anywhere close, you would have to agree that women, by and large, are the choices of that. Women choose who have sex, not men. Women are the gatekeepers of sex.
I don't see how that would be true when we're referencing physical attraction rather than emotional and intelligence and like success, right? Because okay, a few things. What the data is showing that women have pretty much equal sex drive and interest in intercourse as men do. So it's not like women are having exponentially less intercourse, right? Or are interested in exponentially less intercourse. So I don't see how this would be true.
Nah, whatever you just said.
How do
Something.
you disagree that? How on one hand do you believe that women are more promiscuous, but on the other hand, you believe that they're having less sex?
Because women are the gatekeepers of sex. You can't have sex with a woman unless she says yes. Obviously, unless that's our word.
Can you have sex with a man unless he says yes?
I don't know no able-bodied man that's gonna turn down even a average-looking woman. Say what one more time?
Any woman?
I don't
Do you know
know.
how many women I know that would not turn down an averagely acceptable man?
It's few and far between.
Like the thing is it's average on what? Like, what do you mean?
Okay, average on the indicators that I gave before, which is why I'm trying to turn this whole thing into a circle.
But equivocate it, right? So, okay, a woman, by merit of those preferences, would accept an average man in what he cares, in what she cares about. That's what that means. A man would accept an average woman in what he cares about. And what's funny is I'd love to pull up the Bumble study on sexual attraction, because the data is fascinating here. Because what we actually see is that women tend to like people that are equally attractive as them, whereas men tend to swipe right on women that are much, much more attractive to them. Right? They swipe right on basically everyone. They have much higher rates of swiping right. That is true.
I think you actually have that backwards.
But they are also shooting for the top, right? Whereas women tend to not.
Whoa, Will, what are you talking about? That's actually backwards. That's literally backwards of what you just said. Women typically actually only swipe right on 20% or 30% of actual all these different apps, Tinder, Bumble, Hinge, etc. When it comes to actual men, they swiping right on majority of these women. So you actually have it.
No, I don't doubt that women swipe right on fewer people. What I'm saying is the people that they do swipe right on are generally equally as attractive.
But hold on.
I can't get this data up right now. This was a lovely piece of data. It might have been a Tinder data.
But hold on. Let's stay here for just a second. If that's the case, and women are swiping less on the men, then by default, it has to be men that are going to be at the top of their hierarchy when it comes to what they care about, which is looks.
But women equally have to be on the top of their hierarchy. But okay, I don't know what the argument here is.
I can get back full circle. So the point
is, once again, wait, no. You're saying, okay, if we assume everyone settles down into a relationship eventually, and we're talking about the dynamics of what relationships should be.
Yes.
Okay.
There we go.
We're talking about leadership within relationships. We're not talking about hookups. We can talk about the right-wing incel talking points of hookups. That's fine. We can talk about them. But we're talking about relationships, and you're talking about like long-term leadership within relationships.
Yes.
What you've mistaken is that even if we accept the preferences you've said, those preferences, by and large, affect hookups much, much more than they would relationships, because relationships just eventually will happen. So if we accept that, there are 100 women and 100 men, and they all end up getting together, this argument doesn't actually make any sense.
But that's the premise that I actually disagreed with you on, and that's why we came into this tangent.
Where's the premise?
So
So, okay, are you denying that people just end up in relationships? Are you saying that more men end up in having never been in a long-term relationship?
thank you. Yes. Now you
Is that
can
what you're
just
saying?
yes.
Okay. That's
Point
very
blank period.
different than the discussion we were just having 5 minutes ago, right?
Okay. Well, to make it clear, I said specifically that the women are jumping around from D to D at the top 20 to top 10% of men, and they don't want to actually settle down with a man that they feel is beneath them until a certain age, which typically happens around 30, 35. So what ends up actually
So, but
happening.
that wait, but that's different, right? That is you agreeing with me, kind of, in that people will end up in a relationship.
'Cause the only I don't want to get too deep in this, but I don't think that they actually end up. I think they do end up in a relationship, but I think the relationship actually ends. But that's what I'm saying. I don't want to keep going in circles. I want to actually land the
Wait, but
plane.
that's my whole point. Is they end up in a relationship, right?
No, I'm
They end up
saying
in a relationship. We're talking about dynamics of relationship. I don't see what's difficult here. Like they do end up in one. We're talking about the dynamics of them.
no, no, no.
If you want
I'm
to talk
saying
about hookup culture and promiscuity, that's a different discussion.
okay.
Um,
Well, I'm saying that yes, that they get into relationships, but they actually don't end up in relationships. But I don't know if
but
that's
no,
a
no, that
whole
was
different
my. Well, the question is, they have never been in a long-term relationship. Are you saying that most men will have gone through their life having never been um in a long-term relationship?
what I'm saying. Following that particular question that you just gave, I'm saying that typically happens. The man is probably, I don't know, 30, 40, etc. He gets into a relationship with the woman that seems like she wants to actually downgrade and settle with him because she thinks he's beneath him. And it actually doesn't work out in that relationship and it falls apart. My overall point has been the same, which is women typically want a superior. And therefore, you cannot have a superior and be equal to that person. This is not even a man and woman thing. You just can't have two people in a relationship, friendship, mothership, whatever it is, and one is superior and one is inferior, and you have no hierarchy when it comes to that.
As I've said, it's nonsense. First of all, because eventually they regard. Yeah, no, but let me respond to this because it still doesn't actually make sense. Women will end up with men.
Yes.
Relationships will happen. Okay. If you're saying that most of these relationships simply look like women hopping around men that they view to be higher status than them,
Mm-hmm.
okay, we can talk about that. But if it's hopping around, it still doesn't account for most of the relationships. Most of the relationships would look like this actual parity. Then, if most women have choice on being in a relationship, somehow you're suggesting that it's entirely paradoxical. You're suggesting somehow women are in relationships all the time, but men aren't. But you can't. If we're in monogamous relationships, you don't have more than two women in it, so you just can't mathematically account for that. So the dynamic you seem to be suggesting is that there are like, okay, of those 100 men, that there are 10 of them that over a year's time date like 4 women because those women are hopping around,
We're getting
which is hilarious
somewhere.
because I would view that as the man hopping around, right? And yet somehow women are the gatekeeper of sex when they're the ones hopping around, which is strange and being more promiscuous. But once again, so there are two things here. First of all, the numbers you're throwing around don't really make sense. It doesn't really make sense to suggest that it doesn't really make sense that like I don't know, most relationships look like most preferences, right? That would be like saying, well, women men prefer really attractive women. So most relationships are going to end up with ugly men and hot women. That's not really what we see happen. It's not actually what happens. You tend to get pretty equal pairings, actually, because the other person has choice. The women have choice over they do, and so they value what they want. And women tend to value people that are generally equal. But secondarily, you're confusing social status with leadership abilities, which is not what it actually tracks. Being wealthy doesn't track to being a leader. right? So even if I did accept that most relationships was a high status and a low status person, right? It doesn't mean that that high status person is going to be a better leader. That's not true.
Okay. You said a couple things there I agree with 1000%, but you said a couple things I disagree with. I think 100% wealth is a very good indicator of you being a good leader. Yes, it's not the end all be all, but wealth does. If it's a very good indicator that you could possibly be a good leader. Very good indicator, actually. Um,
The two things have nothing to do with each other. Do you know what the biggest indicator of wealth is? If you gave me one fact, right? If I could ask for one fact to predict your wealth, what would be the best indicator of it?
I guess your job title. I don't know.
No,
From your
it would be your parents' wealth.
really.
That is consistently the best demographic predictor of wealth. I entirely disagree.
Okay, cool. We can hash it out on that. Okay, but when it comes to actual, again, when you keep saying that, I'm not saying low status and high status, etc. I'm just saying in relative to her, she wants someone better in all these different regards. That's why I asked you earlier, what are regards of a successful person in the society that we live in? And you
Yeah,
gave certain,
successful, right? That's status. This is just in reference to society, right?
yes.
We were talking about status. I think a mother is extremely successful. Status is value like society doesn't value that nearly as much. So,
I wish they would.
I
So
mean,
so that I actually agree with you on that. I agree with you on that. But I'm talking about a man right now. So I don't want you to try to
okay, they don't
change.
value a father either. Like what I'm saying is they don't value domestic labor. So when we're talking about or like a huge amount of things. Like they don't value domestic labor and caretaking nearly as much as they would in relation to leadership. When also, I don't think your ability to be an accountant, which is a high income field, relates to your leadership abilities. I don't think your actuarial abilities relates to your leadership abilities. Right? There's just so many issues with assuming that social status has anything to do with leadership, rather than just if you looked at the data, Don, showing that women are on average better leaders.
But that's why I keep asking, in what capacity? Because when it
I
comes
know
to
I've
relation,
given you multiple statistics.
I got you.
Emotional
Go ahead.
intelligence. No, don't. I've shown you this, right? You keep
Yeah, yeah, that's what I
asking, and
said.
I
That's what I said.
keep answering, and I keep answering. Women CEOs perform better. Women leaders perform better, right? In terms of basically any conceivable metric, right?
Mhm.
Women leaders of countries do. Women have, on average, succeed better in academia, right? Which is that's just as very clear. They've received more bachelors, more masters, more PhDs for the past 15 years. I think academia, right, is quite a good metric for leadership. Actually, we can talk about that. But at least ability to engage in critical thought and continue through something that's a good metric for leadership. They just in clinical trials or in comparative trials, they perform better in emergencies. Their emergency response as civilians is better, right? Why did you pretend like I didn't answer your question, Don? I gave you like five or
No, no, no,
six
I'm
metrics.
not. I'm not. I'm saying
So,
it,
okay,
it,
when
it-
you said, just because I don't like speaking to liars, and I don't think you're a liar, but I do think you lied. You said, and I keep asking you how. I already
okay.
answered that, Don. Did I not?
Okay. No, no, no. You did. When I said when I keep
So then
asking
why
you
did you
how,
repeat it? Why did you repeat it? Why did you repeat it as if I didn't?
no, because I am in my mind, I'm talking about in societal when it comes to relationships between men and women and the hierarchy between the two, and saying that they both cannot be equal if one is superior. That's what I'm trying to get at when it comes to
But
that.
in that context, emotional intelligence is relevant. In that context, their political aptitude in leadership is relevant. In that context, academia is relevant.
How?
Right. So
Okay,
I've
now
answered
we're
that. And
getting there.
I've said, wait, I was just talking about the population, men versus women. Right. And then we can talk about how they pair up and what that looks like. I was taking the precept that they would just end up together, which I think is just, I mean, you agree with that, just in kind of a weird roundabout way. But like, no, I answered you, Don, in the
Okay.
context that you were talking. Those are all relevant to the relationship.
I guess maybe I'm just not connecting the dots between the two because it still doesn't make sense of how would.
I said women are better leaders. I gave examples as to how. You said I keep asking how they are better leaders, and I've answered it like four times.
Okay, okay, I get that. My point is that I gave you examples of how men are better leaders. So how can we concede on what is the actual indicators of what is a good?
When are men better? Wait, no, you didn't. On a population scale, how are men better leaders?
better positions, more money, better
Wait,
aptitude, more
so
experience.
we agreed that this logic is flawed.
On what?
If I went back 200 years and I looked around, right, I would conclude by your logic that white people are better leaders.
Well, in back 200 years, I would agree at that time that white people would be better leaders. I would concede on that. I would
I
have to
think we
concede
see
on
the
that.
problem in the logic then.
No, no, because I would have to concede on that because at that time they were by definition better leaders. You
No, they
can't
weren't though.
argue
This
that.
is not true. They were just given more opportunity to be leaders.
Oh my God,
You
Will,
understand
Will.
like I don't want you to admit crazy things when you don't have to. That's
No, no,
not
no.
true.
No, no, no. Because I will admit crazy things because again, I had this conversation
That's
with someone
crazy to suggest that
before.
white people are better leaders.
No, no, no. I said were at that time. I was very specific with my words. Don't do
Okay,
that.
were.
So,
Okay, you think the colonists were better leaders than the people they colonized?
by
Like, no, they weren't.
definition,
That's not true.
I mean, I had this debate with somebody three, four, five times. It gets crazy because I do believe to a certain degree. That's why I keep asking what are indicators, and you gave the indicators. I'm not saying that you didn't, but that's why I
Yeah.
gave indicators of the situation, the society that I said when it comes to men. So
But
I'm
the
saying,
indicators,
I guess,
my indicators actually measure leadership. Your indicators measure who has the pew pew, has the violence, right?
okay, then
Like
here's a better question. Hold on, Will. Here's a better question then. What is the tangible, I guess, results that we can judge who is a better leader or not? I think that's a better question overall.
but the question isn't the result because multiple things contribute to results, right? Like my wealth is contributed both to my work and my parents' wealth, right? So it can't just be nominal wealth. It has to be you have to be the independent factor. And that's why I say, right, comparing men leaders to women leaders, right? Or something like that. And accounting for multiple variables.
I
Or
got you.
comparing their achievement on, I don't know, standardized tests and accounting for socioeconomic conditions or something like that. It's not just. I don't think you understand how like scientific communities reach conclusions. You don't just look like, whoa, white people have more money, they must be better at getting money. Like, no, that's we would all know that's wrong and false.
Well, hold on. This is where I disagree. And you might say, oh, I don't want to admit, to crazy things. By default and by definition, that would have to be true up until that point. By admission of default, that would have to be true. For you to say, hey,
That's
over the
not that's
course
not
of
true. That's totally
it,
absurd. That's like, okay,
it
if
would
I have
have to
two
be.
children, I'm going to interrupt you. One second, I'm just going to throw something out. You're going to repeat the same shit. But I'm just saying because this is a crazy clip. If I have two children, if I have
Yep.
two children and they're 1 years old, right?
Yes.
And I sit down and I give one $10 million and I give the
Hmm.
other one nothing. Does that make the
Hmm.
one that I gave $10 million better at making money?
No.
Cool. Great. Yeah. So you actually have to attribute their actions, abilities, their individuality, right, with the conclusion, with the outcome. That's what you're missing.
No. I get that. But at the same exact time, I'm actually comparing it in my mind with other, I guess, races, religions, etc. So I am using comparable things, and I know that causation doesn't even correlation, etc.
They're
But
literally both my children. They're the same. Let's say they're
no, no,
twins.
no.
Like
I'm
what?
with your analogy because you gave full context because it's very clear where the money came from, how they start, etc. Blah blah blah. Right. So I get that point. So when it comes to actual society, etc., I guess the overall thing is what would be, I guess, the real indicators of what would a good leader be versus a bad leader. That I think this is the overall thing about this
But
conversation that we would
you're
have
missing
to
one
know.
phrase. All else
Hold on.
equal.
Got you. Yes, I said that.
So all else equal, a man who brings in more money for his company than a woman who brings in more money for her company, I'd say, yeah, the woman was a more successful leader, right? If she brought in more money and that was her goal, right?
Hmm.
Like leadership is just ability to complete a goal, right? But it has to be all else equal. And that's the whole difficulty is accounting for these differences. All else was not equal 200 years ago with race. All else still isn't equal with race, but it's just very clear back then. And you keep saying, well, that's objectively what's true. It's not.
Okay. I don't want to go down the road because we can really go down the road. But
Go down it. Like, tell me how in the world you would reach a conclusion that white people are better leaders 200 years ago.
okay, because if we okay, here's my thought process, and you tell me how I could be wrong. Okay, so we all started pretty much the same. I would think we all started probably in the
No.
same scenario. Well, okay, tell me how we didn't.
I mean, look, what, like the natives arrived something like a few thousand years after Europeans arrived in Europe?
No, no, no. When I say
Like,
started.
no, they didn't.
No, no. When I say started, I'm talking about really started. I'm talking about as like humans from apes or whatever you believe in. If you believe that God came down, etc. I'm saying that started, right? I'm not saying it started from the positions of Native Americans and the colonists, etc. I'm talking about started from literally humans, from whatever I guess Caucasians came from the Caucasus Mountains, I think, and Africans came from Africa. I'm just saying I don't know exactly
Caucasians
where
came from Africa, babe. If we're talking about the very back, very, very far back, like genetic Eve or something like that, they all came from the same
Okay,
place.
perfect,
The point is that
perfect.
when they did separate things that were out of their control, right, or their, ancestors' choices to be nomadic, right, rather than develop agriculture or something like that, changed them through no skill or fault of their own. Right. So the idea that the fact that they all started equal and then suddenly it's a racial competition is absurd. And also the races in these people that you're describing weren't even distinct categories or distinct cultures until we classified them as such. This just doesn't really work out at all. Right. Like obviously, if I went into Texas after Hurricane Katrina, or if I went into the South after Hurricane Katrina, I was like, wow, look at these losers who can't build a house. They must be horrible about building houses, right? Like, no, things affect one's success other than their race or other than what they are
True, but
or their skill.
then we would get into a literal not understanding of where someone came from, how did they get to this point, etc.
Wait,
versus
but I don't think
how
you
did we.
have to answer how, like, you don't have to say, this is how they got here, right? You can answer what we actually know. This is just an appeal to ignorance.
Okay, and when it comes to that, then if by that exact logic, how can we say that I guess the colonists or whatever wasn't better leaders because they dominated another society?
So, because the ability to dominate another society doesn't correlate to your ability to be a better leader. Those
Okay,
two aren't corollary.
but you said earlier, and correct me if I'm wrong, the ability to get a job done or have the results.
Yeah, it's all else equal. So, if what we're doing is comparing the Native Americans' ability to dominate society by comparison to Europeans' ability to dominate society, all else was not equal.
I disagree. Well, I actually disagree.
You think all else was equal? You think one had gone okay, one who 90% of your population was decimated by a disease that was absolutely no fault of your own, and one that had gone through like a semi-industrial revolution by the time. You think that those two societies were equal in ability to
No,
dominate?
what I'm
Even if you
saying
had
is that
literally the exact same people on both sides, it's very clear that Native Americans would have lost.
no, no, I'm saying equal. Okay, maybe I have to contextualize everything that I say, but when I say equal, I'm talking about when you actually first migrated to North America and when people first migrated towards Europe. That's what I'm saying,
Yeah, there was a few thousand years of difference in that time.
and
You
I get the
realize
point.
that, right? Like people came to Europe much earlier than they came to North America.
Yes, and I get that point.
So all
So
else was
that's
not
why.
equal. It was a few thousand years after.
Okay, but then that involves and goes back into a circle of what do we qualify of being a leader? And I know you said this answer
I've
already, which
already
is
told you, all else equal.
that's
I've
I'm
already told you.
saying it.
You account for qualities that you can actually account for, right?
Got you,
You don't
got
have
you.
to do this. This isn't how historical analysis, right? If this isn't how historical analysis is done. You're pretending like we need to have this brain dead system of historical analysis where we just look at groups and we attribute their success, right, to their qualities, right? But we don't have to do that, right? We don't have to draw conclusions on everything, but we just draw the conclusions that we can actually make while it being reasonable, right? And I've already explained how we do this. Do you disagree that the method that I showed works? That when you account for the relevant variables, right? And then you have your isolated variable, or you do a controlled test.
I can't disagree because that's facts.
Exactly. So we do that. You're
Yeah.
offering a alternative method that is brain dead.
I'm trying to, I guess, bridge the gap between what is not equal for men and women when it comes to superiority versus inferiority, because I know you keep saying that there's differences, etc. That's why I'm just trying to stay
Yeah, no,
on that.
the way you're arguing it is not how we draw conclusions,
Got you.
right? You're saying we need to draw this conclusion. I'm saying, yeah, we can, based off of these methods. But you're offering another method, and I need you to justify your method because it is genuinely nonsense. It
Okay.
is obviously wrong, right? It is
I
obviously wrong to observe two groups, say there are differences between them, and then necessarily conclude that the differences are because of the differences within the groups.
Okay. And I get that point. So I guess the overall thing is this. The indicators that you gave are more so women dominated. The indicators I gave are more so society as well as men dominate. Hold on, hold on,
You
hold
gave me
on.
no corollary indicators. What I'm saying is
Hold
your
on.
indicators don't matter. Your argument doesn't work. Mine does. It's not saying, well, both of us gave indicators, some of them men, some of them women. Give me any indicator that's actually comparable to mine.
Okay. You said, what did you say? You said emotional intelligence.
Yep.
Okay. Correct? Okay. I would say a leader of men would be one. I would say excuse me, that would be comparable to the exact same thing, which is, I know you gave the example of maturity and that it should be valued that women should take care of kids, etc. And I agree with that. But the same exact equivalent, I guess, would have to be a leader of men. Would
What do
you
you mean
just
a
disagree?
leader of men? That's not a quality. What are you talking? Wait, what do you? I'm sorry. I'm coming off harsh, but like, it's. What are you saying? A leader of men? What does that mean?
Okay, leader of men probably means more so other men want to be him.
Okay, so the quality with which other people want to be you.
Yes, yes, respect. To
So
put it,
no, wait, men are better. Wait, men are better at being leaders of men than women are at being leaders of men.
yes,
Okay, but so then to compare it to what's actually comparable, are you suggesting that men are better at being leaders of men than women are at being leaders of women?
mm. um,
Because that's
I
what
would
we would
say
need to
yes.
compare, right? Leadership within your own gender.
No, I would say that's a false comparison, but we can get into that
It's
slightly. But
directly comparable. That would be the actual comparison, leadership
no,
within
no,
your
the
own
only
gender.
disagreements I have with that is because I don't want to get into it because this is gonna get crazy. But the only reason I have a disagreement is that because typically speaking, men typically make the decisions or move culture or move society, start revolutions, etc., more so than women
Yeah,
do. I
and
understand.
so do white people. That doesn't mean that they're more able to do it. It just means that they've had the socioeconomic ability to do it. Um, so it's like hashtag irrelevant. Um, like one's leadership within white people materially matters more because white people have had material power more, but it doesn't mean that that actually is relevant of indication of leadership. Um, so this is just fallacious. The idea that this is how we do historical analysis is wrong. You need to actually make an argument as to this. So if you're not going to argue that it's leadership within their gender, right, I'm going to need to hear an
That's
actual
it. Yeah,
equality.
I'll yield to that. Let's yield to men do make better leaders at men than women do at women. I would
Prove
say
it.
women, men actually probably have a better leadership of women than women do of women.
I know that's the whole argument, Don. We're arguing
Yes,
who's better leaders, men or women. I know.
I
So you're
know.
just restating the claim.
No, no,
So
I'm.
okay, prove it. Like prove it. Prove the smaller claim you made. Because if I ask you to prove the greater claim that you just made, it'll just be the argument. So prove that men are better leaders at being men than women are of women.
Okay. Who started feminism and why? Who revolutionized it and why? And who brought it to power and why?
So as I've said, right, the fact that men have had power and executed that power does not mean that that is indicative of leadership. I've already responded to this argument, Matt, Don, because also who started feminism, right? Or who, executed feminism within the government? White people. That doesn't mean that white people are better leaders.
Oh my God! Stop changing the goalposts, Will.
I'm not changing it. I'm pointing out how wrong this is. Once again, historically, women have been oppressed. So their
Yes.
ability to be leaders, their ability to execute power positions of power, right,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
has not been properly indicative of their actual ability to be leaders. So can you give me a single proof that is all else equal?
That's literally almost
Because
hard
I
to
gave
do.
you six. I gave you six. I gave you six where I could say, okay, we can set the exact same man and the exact same woman right down and women would perform better, right? That's what we show. These are independent clinical trials that look at the ability of them to respond to emergency situations.
And
Give me one.
hold on, you individualized actually that does not make sense because you gave general things, and the statistics was about of general people.
Yeah,
It wasn't about.
individual man, individual woman, and then we repeat it.
Yeah, gotcha. Okay, which I disagree on, but I would have to read the studies. Like I said,
I
I
mean,
have to take it.
the large breadth of data shows this. But once again, you've given me nothing. So give me something.
Okay, so I have to give you a piece of data that shows
No,
that men.
give me literally anything of value, because the thing you've brought so far is like I want you to understand how low the evidentiary bar I'm setting you for.
Gotcha.
Give me something that proves what you're saying at all. Because the thing you've given me thus far proves not what you're saying. It's a complete disconnect between evidence and conclusion.
Mm-hmm. So, in conclusion, in evidence, women typically, even now in 2023, still go under men when it comes to leadership. They still choose men to be their leaders. They still choose men to follow. They still choose men to adhere to. Am I wrong or am I right about that so far?
In what capacity?
Oh, gosh. And I guess
Wait, no,
family.
like this is a really important question,
No, you're
right?
right.
Like
Okay.
once again, and also, people still choose white people to be their leaders as well. The idea that other people's biases, other people's views and choices indicate the reality, right? That one is a better leader or not, is wrong. That's just not true. You've given me nothing. Even if it
So
was
then
true,
what?
even if I could go out on the street and ask every single woman, who would you prefer as a leader, a man or a woman? If all of them said women, or if all of them said men, okay, it wouldn't change the actual truth as to whether they were better men or men or women as leaders. Do you understand how those two things have nothing to do with each other? Give me actual evidence.
No, no, I actually disagree. They do have something to do with each other because it's still going to be. I know people have their own biases, etc., but
In
at the
terms of
same.
evidentiary value, right?
Got you.
Like,
Yeah.
all you're saying is people agree with me. Cool. People agreeing with something has a relationship with it being in reality, but only in like a truth finding way, not in a truth existing way. Okay, so I want you to present me with the truth rather than just that other people agree with you. Because effectively what you're saying is, well, other people think that men are better leaders, so I think that men are better leaders. It's not enough.
No, that's
That is what
actually
you're
no.
saying. That is what you're
No, no,
saying,
no.
is that most women prefer men to be leaders.
Yes, but only
Exactly,
in that.
but that's just other people agree with you.
Okay. So when it
You see how
so
that
what
argument
other
boils down to other people agree with me, so I believe it, which is not acceptable in an argumentation.
well, it's not. That's not what I'm presenting actually. But when you said that exact thing, yes, I agree with that. So when you said, here's another one. When it comes to actual leadership,
Wait, it's not another one. Give me anything of value. Once again, you've said nothing of
I
value.
can't. So I have to give you. So okay. So then we have to go down
I
this
want you
road.
to give me
What is
something
the
of
value to
value.
it?
I've
What? Okay,
said
that's
I've
what I'm
set
asking.
out right how you would go about doing that, right? And you failed consistently. The idea that other people agree with you does not prove it.
Okay, then what proves it? If not based
I
on
gave you
society.
examples. Give me a metric that men exceed in, right? That you could preclude other variables from.
I did, but then you discarded them with
What? What
other
was that?
variables
What
and
was the metric?
consequences. Money, status.
You can't preclude other variables from it.
But that's
Because
my
when you
point. So the
compare
thing,
apples to apples, people within the same positions, women outperform.
huh? That's simply not true. What do
When
you mean?
you take apples to apples, right, and you compare women to men, right, women outperform. Not in terms
That's
of money, but in terms of productivity.
that's factually incorrect. What are you talking about? Now, hold on. That's just factually incorrect. So when you saying, hold on, matter of fact, let me backtrack. I won't say that's actually factually incorrect. Let me understand your position. So when you say that, do you mean that when two people are at a job, that the woman is going to perform better?
In terms of productivity, yes.
Okay, yes, that's factually incorrect. So,
Okay,
so
great. So when we look at the qualification, this is wonderful, right? Because then we can just look at hiring biases, right? So when we compare the hiring biases of like hiring, and compare the qualifications of women and men in high level positions, women tend to have higher qualifications in their jobs than men do, in terms of high paying jobs.
okay, but that's not the argument. I don't understand why you even
That
said
is
that.
the argument, right? Qualification is a predictor of productivity, right? We can compare productivity directly, but it would just be much more difficult than comparing qualifications. So if we clearly show that women tend to be more qualified than men do in their positions, we can assume they're more productive.
Hold on now, because no, I mean I understand the qualifications that you are presenting. I get that point, but I don't think that that correlates exactly towards productivity. I think more than likely productivity serves productivity, and typically men work more hours. Men work longer hours. Men tend to work overtime. Women don't. So I don't understand the position that you have right now. This is confusing to me because this is what
I've
you're saying.
stated clearly.
True.
Get me any data that regards productivity.
I don't know. Overtime, hours worked.
Overtime?
Overtime,
I mean, I was right. Hours worked.
hours
This is
worked
why I
over.
say comparing apples to apples, right? Like, so in terms of salaried cases, this would be interesting. But apples to apples, right? Like, if we're doing an hourly position, I'm going to compare the hour to hour productivity.
Okay, and you're saying that in those exact example that you just gave, that a woman's going to outperform a man in an hour-to-hour productivity?
I mean, by and large, based on their qualifications, yeah. And on a salaried position, we know it even more to be true.
I don't.
Dawn,
Okay,
you've
maybe.
given me nothing. But part 10 of Dawn, what you're saying, you haven't actually proven. Give me something to prove that women are better leaders, that men are better leaders. Other than that, there have been more men leaders in history. So you've made two propositions. People
Hmm.
agree with me.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's your first evidence point. Is, well, women think that men are better leaders. It's irrelevant. And then the other point is, throughout history, men have been leaders. Once
Got
again,
you.
irrelevant. Neither of those are evidence. Do you think that either of those are evidence?
Um, I do, but if you was to
You do.
pair
So let's
apples to
let's
apples,
talk
hold
about
on, hold
that.
on, hold
I
on.
mean, if
If you
you
was to
agree, if you
pair
agree,
apples
I
to
don't want
apples,
to. I don't want to speak to you if you disagree. How do you think that those are evidence?
no, no, no. So if we was to compare apples to apples, then yes, I would have to agree with you because obviously we have to equate for so many different things that it equates to the equality of the two. But when you talk about over history, you have to take that in consideration. I don't understand how would you not take that in consideration.
Do you know
Also,
what apples to apples means? What do you mean? You're saying a whole lot of nothing. What do you mean you would have to? Explain the propositional logic here. Like, explain to me how this precludes this, or this
because
engages with this.
for example, if I was to say, I don't know, I'm just gonna say some. No, I'm not gonna say nothing crazy, but let's say I was to say Europeans are better leaders because they actually came to another society and decimated the other society. Then you would say, oh, how is that so? Then I would say, oh, because of the results, because they decimated the other society. Then you would say they did not start the same. One had 1,000 years over the other one. So we would have to equate for every exact scenario every single time for every single.
Exactly. And your claim would fail. Correct. If you
What?
cannot justify that this confounding variable does not explain it better, okay,
Hmm.
your claim fails.
So
Correct,
then,
Don.
okay. So then, how could you possibly have a even remote good conversation of coming to a conclusion when it comes to men and women and dynamic between the two, if you're always going to revert back to, oh, women started late, or women have been oppressed, etc., or there's biases when it comes to culture, etc., and it kind of seems like you're always dismissing.
Do you understand the concept of isolating variables?
I understand that concept. But
That's
I'm
the
saying
answer.
sometimes, hold on. I'm saying sometimes isolating those variables are not as strong as you would present them to be.
What?
Okay, let me say it again. I'm saying that isolating those variables are not as strong as what you think they are. Does that make sense or no?
No.
Okay. I don't know how else I can explain that.
What you're saying is that isolating those variables is not as strong as I believe them to be.
Yes. That's literally what I said. Yes. Talk to me.
I'm confused about the sentence structure.
Okay.
Like,
Okay, let me okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
yeah, because that's like, I mean, that like is, if we really write that down and look at that sentence for a second, it's nonsense. So can you try and rephrase it maybe?
The variables that you're talking about that are dismissing the claims that I am making are actually not as strong as you think they are to dismiss it to 100%, maybe dismiss it 50%, 25%.
Great. And
Does
so,
that make
okay.
better sense?
And this is why I say that you don't understand how like scientific reasoning happens. We aren't just saying, oh, this confounding variable exists. What
Hmm.
we're saying is that this confounding variable exists. We know that it affected them. The question we're presented with is, to what degree did either of these affect them?
That's exactly, yes.
And if you cannot justify to me that this variable you're suggesting mattered, right?
Hmm.
You're going to need you need to, then your claim that this variable mattered fails. How we isolate confounding variables, and once again, I don't know why you discuss this if you don't know these things, is how we isolate confounding variables is we look at comparable populations with that confounding variable isolated. We look at the effect on the population, and then we detract that effect from the novel comparison.
Okay.
So it looks like something like this. Say there's group A, B, C, and D. We're trying
Hmm.
to compare C and D.
Hmm.
C and D are we're comparing white women to black men, right? And um, we're trying to determine the differences in outcome between them due to sex. Okay, so we got black men, white women. We're trying to determine the differences between them due to sex. We look at A and B, which are white women and white men, right? And we compare them, right? And we say, okay, sex had a 30% impact on their outcome. So we can conclude that sex has a 30% outcome, or no, or I guess, okay, one second. Sorry, I messed that up because on this side, we would be looking at the effect of race. So we'd say, okay, well, sex has a 30% in outcome on these two as well, because they do here. Then we can conclude that race had I don't know, 70% a conclusive effect on their outcome. Do you see how we do that? Is
Yeah.
we draw conclusions for one variable, and then in order to account for it, we account for the differences here. And then we look
Yeah.
at still the differential between the groups.
Yes, I get that 1000%. So again, I think the disconnect is happening here is I'm giving you variables and you are dismissing those variables. Like I said, the strength, competency, experience, etc., blah blah blah, right? And then you're saying your
Wait,
variables,
wait, you're not though. You're not giving me any of those baseline variables.
I just
You're giving me success and history. That's a conclusion, right, that you
mhm.
would need to claim. You're not giving me any variable. Give me competency. Give me
Okay,
strength, and we can talk about
competency.
it.
I thought I said this at the whole beginning of this, but all right, competency, strength, um,
In what way are they
experience.
more competent?
In what way are they more competent?
Prove it, yeah.
Okay, generally speaking, they're older by 2 to 3 years when it comes to marriage, and when it comes to dating, it's probably even more so. So, generally speaking, if you are older than someone, you're probably going to be a lot more experienced than them. And generally speaking, a woman wants someone that is more comparable than her, more competent than her.
Wait, but
So,
once again, this isn't the argument. Okay, stick on that.
talk to me.
Because what you're about to say, no, you're saying on average, women marry younger.
Huh? No, no, I said on
Is that
average, women. No, I said on average, women marry men that are 2 to 3 years older than themselves.
which necessarily means that women
Which,
marry younger? That's what I said, wasn't it?
when you say women marry younger, okay, I see what you mean. No, go ahead. I see what you mean. Go ahead.
Yeah. Okay, great. You never brought that up because that's fascinating,
Okay,
right?
talk to me.
Is competency, quote unquote. The question is if older people are better leaders, right?
I
We
would
could talk
say
about that.
typically.
I mean, I think that, right, is an interesting argument. That at least
Okay,
is evidence if it were true. So let's look at the facts and then we can discuss them.
talk to me. But
Um,
I hope you post this
average.
live somewhere because I actually did say this at first. And while he's doing that, everyone get this to 40K. Hit double tap that. Double tap it. Double tap, double tap, double tap for Will. Not for me. This is not for me. Double tap for Will.
It's fascinating. Are there age patterns? Measuring age difference between different sex couples. Yeah. Okay, yeah, 2.2 years in North America. And you're
Oh,
suggesting that because they are older, men should lead on average. To that I would just say, if that's the argument, we can just say the older person can lead.
hey,
I don't
W.
think there's any. I think this is fascinating because, yeah, okay, if that's the discussion, the older person can lead, but that we don't have to reference sex in this.
But come on, Will. Don't be this. No, don't do that.
You
Don't
see
do
what I do
that.
there? You see what I do there? That's fascinating, isn't it? This has
Yes.
nothing to do with their sexuality, though. This has to, I would say the reason that they marry older, right, is primarily due to social structure, right? We train and socialize men to have different dating habits than we do women. Um,
Oh no,
so
no,
that's why this has
no.
nothing to do with sexuality. So I mean, I need that. I guess we'll say like that's fair enough. If you could prove that it's due to their sex, right, biological sex, that would be an interesting fact. But it doesn't.
What do you mean? I can prove. Okay. What do you mean when you say I have to prove when it comes to their sex? You mean dating
I
wise, or you
prove that
mean?
it has to do with their sex.
Okay, I see what you did there. I see what you did there. I see what you did there. That would actually be hard to prove. Yeah, that would be hard to prove.
Yet I can prove
But
that like emotional intelligence is both socialized and biological, right?
mm, how so?
And I'd say by and large, emotional intelligence is this way. This is why I say it's kind of a useless discussion, right? This is why I preempt the discussion with it's useless because I just say whoever the better leader should lead, and by and large, there shouldn't be leaders in relationships. This is like my whole point, and the whole context of this is me saying, well, if we are going to engage in this, actually, women should be leaders, right, due to these series of factors. Because being older, right, after 26 doesn't really make you more like developed. It just gives you a little more experience, which, if anything, lowers emotional intelligence because older people tend to be less empathetic. So yeah, very cool. If we think that the older person should lead, which would be fascinating. Oh yeah, that's also an interesting thing is that men do mature 2 years later, or like about a year and a half later. Like they go through puberty and mental development like about a year and a half later. So I guess your conclusion would have to be that up until 26, women should be the leaders if we're talking about physical development and maturity.
No, when it comes to maturity, yes, I agree with you. I have to concede on that because, on average, women typically are more exposed to different social scenarios than men are. So they definitely will have a better emotional intelligence, social cues, etc. I have to agree with that. But when it comes to physical, I disagree with that. When it comes to unless you're saying that they're just mature faster, yes, I have to agree with that because that's biology. But if you're talking about physical attributes when it comes to like strength and that type of thing, I have to disagree with that.
Yeah, but like in terms of physical maturity. Yeah, so I think okay, great. Do you have another factor that like I could look at?
All right, talk to me. I said experience, but that I guess this is competency, same thing.
Age, yeah.
Um,
Once again, you
yeah,
could
same
just
thing.
say the more experienced person to lead.
Yeah, exactly. Um, no, I think that's it. We can probably dub it on that.
Great. Then I just
But
say like gender roles don't really hold up to like a critical eye in this case because we can
I'm saying,
just say people should do what is best in their relationship. And gender doesn't really seem to be a good indicator of that. Because if you don't know the age of your partner, I think you're going to have a few more problems than just gender in your relationship.
I could concede on just that very first point, but not the last point. Generally speaking, women know their age of their partners. Generally speaking, women do want someone that is more competent, more experienced than they are, and that
No,
typically
but my
does
point
come
is
with
like then sex doesn't matter, right? Because you would just say, oh, I know your age. Here's the plus 10 points for leadership that I give you for that, or whatever.
Got you. All right, I have
Rather
to
than being like, oh, you're a man. Here's the plus 10 points for being leadership.
No, you're right. I have to concede on that. I'm gonna do my research. I'll get back to you. You killed it.
Yep, please
Let's
do.
get it. All right, peace out, broski.
Peace out.
How you disconnect?
I got you. Okay, everyone. Keep on sending likes. I will only be live for just like a little bit more, because I'm gonna go probably up to my comm. Maybe we'll see. Let's see who'd be interesting. I'll just go on the top. How's school going? It hasn't started yet, but we're living on.
How's it
Oh,
going, man?
Zach.
What's going on?
Are you driving?
No, sir.
Okay, wonderful. What would you send a
No,
guest
I'm sitting here waiting on folks at work.
Yeah, all good.
Do what?
Oh no, Zach. Okay, so sorry. You have like horrid Wi-Fi. So all I do love and appreciate people. Okay, so if you spam, I'm gonna skip you more. Coda, hello.
Can you hear me?
I can. What did you send a guest request to disagree on?
Okay, so I'm a little confused on the anti-death penalty. Can you tell me where you are at with that?
Yeah, so I just don't believe in an unjustified killing. I don't think there's any good reason to do the death penalty. So I don't support it.
So, in a way, you're saying that I don't know any names right now, but hypothetically, a man who just say he unalived his entire family like 6 years ago. They put him on death penalty for justifying his family member's family. You're saying that you wouldn't agree with that because it's unjustifiable for him?
I'm saying that the family member's feelings are not good enough to unalive the person, because that person also has family, and that person also has people that care about him who would be upset if he is unalived, right? And those people who are upset are just as much innocent and just as much valid in their feelings and just as much deserving of protection of emotions as anyone else. So I'd see no good reason.
I mean, in a way, he didn't necessarily care for what the family members or what those people who he unalived in that moment felt, and he did not care. So why would it not be justifiable for him to be put onto that opportunity where he is unalived at the death penalty, or just any like?
I'm just saying if we're protecting innocent people's feelings, the death penalty doesn't do that because it causes harm to other innocent people's feelings. So I don't think that we should have a justice system based on people's feelings. But even if we did, the death penalty isn't a good answer for it.
So the family members should be put through, like, in a way, hell, knowing that this man is just sitting in jail, living honestly
As
one
I
of his
said,
best lives.
I don't see why the other family members should be put through hell, knowing that their, brother,
I
sister,
honestly feel
child,
like the other
mother was
family
unalived.
I honestly feel like the other family members would genuinely be happy with it. Like, you just unalived this entire, like, family that you made and ruined their family and disappointed us because we never raised you like that. So yes, you deserve this. I feel like in that situation,
Have you
if
ever
that was like,
spoken? Have you ever watched like the testimony of like criminals' parents and mothers and fathers?
yes.
Great. And is that what they say?
I feel like there's like at least 55% of them that do say that.
Okay, great. If it's 55% of them and you have two parents,
Yeah.
and you have more than one person who cares about you, there's going to be at least one person in your life, right?
Yeah.
Statistically, that's going to not want you to be unalived. And I disagree that it's at least 55%, but even if that was true, right? Because we can get the data in front of us if we wanted, but it's just kind of irrelevant. Is unequivocally you're causing harm to that innocent person or that series of innocent people, right? Or like at what point do we say, okay, well, I care about this innocent person's feelings, but not these innocent people's feelings? Who gets a say, right? Is it just the family members, or is it just everyone that cares about this person and would be heartbroken if they don't get unalived? What if this unaliver has a huge fan base, right? Like Dahmer developed a huge fan base, and they called in trying to have him, released and not unalived, right? Do we care?
Yeah.
I don't think we should care that, he gets a huge fan base and now suddenly, maybe we don't unalive him because people will be really upset if they do. I don't see how this goes. There are
So,
clearly, like, I don't think this is the metric.
so you bringing up Dahmer, how do you see that? Would you have wanted him to be unalived or no?
No, I don't.
Can you explain why?
Because it doesn't serve any purpose.
It does serve a purpose. It's putting more people out there to know about these certain things and telling them, like, hey, be cautious, know about a person that could be doing this. Certain things, as of like, this
You don't think
man went
people know
around
that
and
crimes exist?
killed. Huh?
I'm confused.
Okay,
I'm
this
confused
man,
what you're
Dahmer.
saying. It's not,
Okay,
is
let me
like people know crimes happen.
yes, but not necessarily something to what Dahmer did. No one knows like a certain extent of those certain things until like so much came out about it. Last year, was it last year that the fucking show came out where so many people started talking about it, started learning more about it, looking into it. And a lot of people honestly didn't really look into Dahmer until after his show had come out. And now a lot
But
of
that's not
people
about
are
the death
sitting here.
penalty.
So what I'm saying is that you are saying that he didn't deserve to be unalived, but in that
Also, was he?
scenario where he continued to unalive literally like multiple amounts of people, I don't know the exact numbers, so I'm not going to say it, but multiple
Oh,
amounts
Dahmer
of
actually
people.
never. Sorry, Dahmer never had the death penalty on him.
Oh, yeah, sorry, fucking wrong, sorry. But back to what I was saying. But like if he had that like put on him when he did and people were talking about it, hold on, let me collect my thoughts. I just got lost. Um he had unalived multiple amounts of people. He had literally devoured some, ate them, and put multiple families in like these situations of like horror. And yes, his family, like, they felt love and care for him still. They were still very disappointed. They still hated him for what he did. And a lot of that happened. And even his father was very upset with certain things, but he said that like he's getting what he deserved.
So,
Even
what was
his
your
grandmother.
publicity point?
I'm sorry, repeat that.
What was your publicity point?
I honestly don't even know. Your argument is just like, I don't get it.
You said that more people would know about him if he was unalived?
No, I'm saying that the show that had come out, more people learned about him through the show
But
that
that's
came out.
how does that have to do with the death penalty?
Because your argument, like, it's just confusing. I don't get it.
Wait, but how does the Jeffrey Dahmer show have to do with the death penalty?
Because you brought up Dahmer, so I was just bringing up.
No, I didn't. You asked me about Dahmer.
You had brought
Or
up
you
his
asked me
name.
about his incarceration. Maybe I brought
Yes.
up. Did I bring up Dahmer? No, I
Yes,
didn't. I don't think.
you started talking about I can't remember what your exact words were, but you were like explaining like the killer Dahmer, and then I was like, okay, so since you're bringing up Dahmer, how would you feel about like, yes,
No, you brought it up. Yeah, you brought it up. I'm pretty sure you brought it up. You asked me, okay, Jeffrey Dahmer, do you think he should be
everyone
unalived?
comment and let me know that like who the fuck brought it up, because I'm almost 1,000% sure that he did.
Can someone give me context for when she brought it up? What's it like? Because I might be able to remember this. Yeah. You got comments up, Coda?
Yeah.
Fascinating. Anyway,
I asked your opinion.
maybe I forget
That's
the
what I
context
did.
of it. I'll
You
get the
brought up
clips
his
up
name,
because
and
then
I
I feel
asked your
genuinely
opinion about it.
crazy. Yeah, I think you did. But point is great. Yeah, people do horrid things. Just there's no purpose in killing them, right? Because a few things costs more, will inevitably what unalive innocent people, right? And is hurting innocent people's emotions. So I don't see.
Okay, I see what you mean.
I did bring up Dahmer. Oh my
Yeah, and
gosh. Okay. I did
I
bring
just
up
had
Dahmer.
asked your
I was
opinion.
talking. Thank you for the one person that gave me context.
Yeah, I
I
just
did bring
like
up Dahmer.
asking your opinion
Yeah,
about like, yeah.
because I
But
talked. One second. I just want to clarify because like I felt crazy. Yeah, I was saying. Yeah, Dahmer, for example, he got fans, right? Yeah. Okay. I did bring up Dahmer. My
yeah,
bad.
see
Okay. Great. Great.
that's where I was confused, because I was asking your opinion on it. But
Yeah, I was going. Yeah.
yeah, so
Wonderful.
that's where that was going. But back to the death penalty. So I understand and like I agree with like hurting the other family members like feelings and how they feel about the person that is on the death penalty. I understand where you're coming with that, and I agree. But something I disagree with you on is the fact that he put or someone had put the other family and multiple friends, family, loved ones, whoever, through all these like traumatic things that were done to the person or multiple people's, and now they just get to suffer like in jail or prison and just kind of live their life in a way like it's not free, but like you're just kind of living off like free food, free living in a way, and not really being put through like what you put the family members through, that person through, and
But
you get put
who does
on the
that
death
benefit?
penalty.
Who does unnecessarily hurting them benefit?
What do you mean by that?
Like I don't like. The thing is you're like, well, you're not putting them through. Like, why would I put them through that?
Well, he or the person who put that family through that didn't ask himself that question or themselves that question
I think it's,
while they
but like
were
I'm not a serial unaliver. If you want to say, well, we can just be as moral as a serial unaliver, like no, I'm asking you why we would do it. What's a good reason to do it?
to put someone on the death penalty.
No, just to cause unnecessary harm. You're saying, well, they don't go through what I put the other person through. Who cares? Right? I should only put someone through pain if it benefits anyone. And I don't see how it benefits anyone.
So what I'm saying is, say, hypothetically, my sister gets murdered, and
my whole family is very hurt, very like traumatized by hearing what happened to her or anything like that. And any person in their right mind, when they go through that situation, they're like, oh my gosh, like I want the person who did this to her to get hurt. Like I want it to be justified. I want the right thing to fucking happen, type of thing. Like, would you not feel that way? Like, oh, like
Yeah,
I
and they
would
can feel that way. That doesn't mean that that's what our justice system is based on.
Yes, I agree with that.
I'm saying we shouldn't do things on the justice system based off how other people feel. I agree. Like that's my point. Is it doesn't matter. Like the Dahmer point was, it doesn't matter that Dahmer had fans that would be hurt if he was unalived. That's not the question. So if your argument is it would make the family feel better, right? Then I'm just going to say it doesn't matter, and you need to actually address why I should care.
Not that it would make the family feel better. I feel like that would be justice proven to the person who was murdered. Like that is justice.
Why would it be justice? Why is it just? Justice is to benefit people is to benefit anyone. I think if you're doing justice for the purpose of no one, it's nothing. It's not justice.
It's benefiting the person who has been killed.
They can't be benefited.
Whether they are here physically or not, they are being benefited, because that is literally just like rest assuring, like just sitting here knowing that person is gone and they can't harm anyone else, they can't hurt anyone else, they can't continue.
But how does that benefit a person that can't wait? Explain to me how you benefit a person that was unalived. Like, what do you mean? How does their material state change?
It doesn't. I'm saying that.
Then they're not benefited.
Okay.
So who does it benefit?
The justice system, in a way.
How does it benefit the justice system? Because it costs the justice system more, right? And it risks the justice system unaliving innocent people, which doesn't benefit the justice system.
But
so
they're not.
How does it benefit the justice system?
They're not innocent. And how are they innocent?
No, I'm saying it risks putting innocent people at life, because we've never had a system where we didn't unalive innocent people on accident.
Well, what innocent people are put on death penalty?
What have we had? How many people? How many people have been? In America. At least 190 people were wrongly convicted and sentenced to the death penalty, according to the Death Penalty Information.org.
Okay, so yes, when they are innocent, I can see where you're coming from, and I agree 1,000% with you on that. But if they are not innocent, and there are ways to prove that they are not innocent, there's multiple things to prove that they are not innocent. Like everything on the book is laid out, and they're not innocent.
You will never get a case that is 100% clear. It will never happen.
Okay, there are multiple cases that are almost close to being completely clear, though.
But that's the bar for all criminal cases. It has to be beyond a reasonable doubt, right? Right. So every criminal case has to approach this bar for beyond a reasonable doubt. What bar are you suggesting? Right.
What do you mean?
What bar are you suggesting? Oh, now it's enough, right? We can put a person in jail for life, but now we need to reach this added bar of justice. Okay, by the way, everyone, video evidence can and has been tampered with. DNA evidence can and has failed us. We've had multiple exonerations on the basis of DNA evidence, and we've had multiple convictions on the basis of DNA evidence that were later exonerated, right? Every piece of evidence has flaws, has been flawed, and is flawed, right? If we want to have a long discussion about this to the people in the comments, I'm happy to, but there's not a single case, right, where there's no doubt at all. The question if it's reasonable. And you can't have a reasonable belief, right? Like we can't have a reasonable belief. So, or you can't have a reasonable doubt. So what bar are you suggesting, right? Where are all these innocent convictions coming from? If what you're already saying, is that it may be really by the books really clear. I'm saying inevitably you're going to unalive innocent people. And I think if you're supporting this system, you just have to swallow that. Well,
in a death penalty, you need 2 eyewitnesses.
Eyewitness testimony has been paid for, has been lied about, has been untrue, has been falsified.
Yes. I don't know. I feel like just the death penalty for the people who are guilty genuinely should be something, because there are people that are guilty of certain things that they should be unalived for. You should
Why?
not be walking this earth.
Why? Is this just your feelings?
It's not my feelings. I feel like a lot of people in this entire world would genuinely agree with me on this, because how are you able to walk this earth and continue living after you put so many people through so many certain things? You've hurt multiple people. You've done crazy criminal fucking things where you've killed people, you've hurt people, you've
Yeah,
eaten
those are your
people.
feelings. Once again, I don't. The thing is
You've
I'm
eaten
asking
people.
you
Like,
how you are
I don't.
comfortable killing innocent people. I'm asking you how you
No,
are comfortable
no,
spending more
no.
taxpayer dollars on these people,
I told
right?
you that
But it
I
is, it is.
listen,
Your system will unalive more people.
Will, I told you I agree with you 1,000%
Do
on the
you
death
think we should have
penalty.
the death penalty in America today?
Yes, I
Then
do.
you are comfortable with a system that will and has unalived innocent people.
No. The thing is I agree with the
That's what
death
would happen
penalty.
in the death penalty in America
No,
today. I don't know how you can say
no,
no.
Will, you keep interrupting. If you learn how to debate, you don't interrupt, you talk with people.
You do
So,
interrupt
let's
when the
talk.
person is saying like something irrelevant. Absolutely, you do. I know how to debate, right? I've debated. I've debated collegiately. I don't need the lessons on it, right? You said you weren't feeling, and then then you literally stated a bunch of feelings. So tell me, right, why you are comfortable unaliving people that are innocent.
What I said to you was I agree with what you say over the innocence people. I also agree with the death penalty. There are ways to prove people are innocent, and they will get taken off the death penalty. Simple
Name
as
them.
that. I can't, because I don't have my computer out. I cannot look it up right now, and I don't feel like doing that. But the simple thing is, like, why sit here and disagree with something when it has caused justice for millions of families, millions, not just thousands, millions of families.
No, it hasn't. Do you know how many death penalties we've had within the past 100 years?
Yes.
Like a few thousand, not millions, not even millions of victims. Oop. I don't know where she went. Sorry, I would have let you up with librarian, but I don't know where she went. Did you re-request? Okie dokie, let's let another person up. Keep on sending likes. And everyone, I do have to do this spiel just because I appreciate and love all of you so much. Follow me up here and do follow my YouTube. The link is in my bio. I'd really, really love if y'all take a second and go follow my YouTube. I really appreciate that. Hello, Charity.
Sorry, working on my tomato plants. It's all brown. It's the ugliest thing you've ever seen, but I'm trying. So did you say it would cost the taxpayers more money to have the death penalty? Because that's what I thought it would be, costing them more to have it.
Yeah, it
Did I
would.
say that right?
It does.
Then feeding them, housing them, everything for the rest of their lives?
Yep.
How much more?
I don't know. It depends contextually. But the death penalty information center.org references both the New York justice system as well as the national federal justice system's official statement on this, is stating very clearly that death penalty proceedings and execution costs more than life in
Okay.
prison.
I
It's
honestly never
primarily due
thought
to
about it until today.
yeah. It's primarily to do with the clemency proceedings that are necessary in death penalty rather than life in prison cases. But it almost consistently does cost more.
So don't you think that maybe they should like or no, you're not going to think that. I was going to say adjust it, kill them sooner. So then like the inmates that are going to enter into society, they would get more funding for things that would help them. No.
Well, I mean, the cost is really upfront. Like the cost is mainly in clemency. So it's like in
I don't
terms
know
of the
what that is.
proceedings
Dumb
that
it
you
down
go.
for me,
So
bro.
you go through
What's clemency?
extra proceedings, right? So the cost of court is like really high. Like the justice system is expensive. And additional proceedings like clemency, which is like a second trial and like a third trial and stuff like that. That's really what costs quite a lot. And that's necessary in death penalty cases.
Right. I hear you. All right. Thanks for all the info. I agree with you 100%. Have a good one.
Hey, well, I appreciate you coming up. Keep on sending likes, everyone. Thank you so much.
Hello.
Hello. What did you send a guest request to disagree on?
I guess about feminist. Yeah, I don't think we should label ourselves as feminists.
What should we label ourselves as?
We shouldn't label at all. I think the idea of feminism was, like back in the day, people didn't have rights to vote. People couldn't make their own statements near people. So I think for back then, what we think of as feminism is right. But in the modern day and age, what we are labeling as feminism, we are just misusing the word.
How are we misusing the word?
Well, let's say like the Western concept of feminism, we're just like whining, nitpicking, and enjoy feeling victimized instead of, like appreciating the freedoms we have. And instead of
Don't you think that the same argument could work against suffragettes? Because they
I
had
mean,
more
that was a
freedoms than
long
women
time ago.
historically did.
Historically, but we should address the needs that are now at the present. We have the
No, but
rights to vote.
my point is the exact same argument was thrown at suffragettes, is that they were just ungrateful because women had come very far before them and they had more freedom than a bunch of the world, right? How dare they ask for more? So I don't think the idea that they've had less in the past is relevant.
I guess I'm just trying to say with modern times, we have modern needs and we shouldn't just, be like, oh, like, I think it's more of a problem of sexism that we're being held back. We have
Yeah,
rights, but it's more of,
but the
yeah.
whole fight is against sexism, of course. It's against the
But not
patriarchy
only women
overall.
are facing sexism, it's everybody. Let's say there are transgender people, there are men. It's just not women. So why should we
Yeah, but
just,
feminists fight for
segregate
men and
women?
transgender and like, well, transgender people are men and women and non-binary people, etc. But
I
yeah,
mean,
they
but
fight
they're
for all of
saying,
those. It's a ubiquitous fight against the patriarchy, and many people are hurt by the patriarchy.
yeah, but I don't like, like segregating it and women seeing themselves as weak while we aren't, right? People view themselves as
What are you
weak.
talking about? Isn't feminism specifically about pointing out the strength and power by comparison to the
It's
exact hurt that the patriarchy wants to do? The patriarchy is hurting everyone. I don't know what you're saying.
I guess what I'm trying to say is like when people are like, oh, we're feminists, we should do this, it's just, giving them more excuses to be weak and not act on it. There are a lot of people just, hiding behind the fact that, oh, we are feminists, but they're not acting on it. They don't act on the fact that they have, they could succeed, they have the strength. They just make up excuses and they don't fight for it.
I don't know what this rant is. Like, we're fighting for equality. We believe in equality. We agree on equality. I don't see how equality could be an excuse for not fighting. What are you talking about?
I guess I
Give me a
just
quote.
want
Like,
the
what do you
word.
like? What do they say?
I this nobody's saying this. This is just me. I just view it like that. I just think like, you should not view it as a single person's problem. It should not be like, oh, feminism only. We should be inclusive of all. We should not just have one word.
Do you know the concept of intersectional feminism?
No.
Like intersectional feminism is feminism and recognizing the oppressive intersections with other oppressions. But like the ones you're talking about don't even need to be like intersectional feminist questions, right? Because it is just feminism forever has been the fight against the patriarchy. And we're just, I mean, of course the patriarchy affects men and women and non-binary people and, you know, a bunch of people co-equally. So I'm really confused how like feminists fight for men.
But there are like the toxic side of people as well. For example, I forgot who was this parliamentarian, but it was in India because she has this really right-wing view of men. She was like, why should women only wear sari? So that's like a draping cloth, right? Men
Yeah.
should also wear sari. So like I don't like when people take it too far and they make comments like that. I don't mean about this, I guess, intersectional feminism, feminism.
Yeah.
I don't mean about that part. I just mean about like people who take it too far, who take the negative out of it and just use it as a point of like, being weak and just making excuses that they don't have equal opportunities in the world.
Well, they
And,
don't have equal
like,
opportunities in the world. That's true. Like, there's a difference between an excuse and recognizing a reality.
I mean,
I don't think you would say, once again, I don't think you would say this to a suffragette. Like, yeah, women do have fewer opportunities in this world. If this is
I
your
think
argument,
they
like, we
do
can
have
argue it.
opportunities. I think they do. Like, let's say
Have equal
governments, they make
opportunities? Do you think they have the same opportunities?
Of course, there's equity. There's like positions in governments that governments clear out. Like, let's say, like in Nepal, where I am, they give like a certain percent of quota for women. So they have like two seats they can fight from. There's like the normal seat that everybody can fight for, including men. And for women, there are separate seats. So they can apply for both seats. And even if they are like
No,
from an
I'm aware of that,
inferior
but that's
nation,
to
they can even.
counter oppression. The point is that prior to those changes, right, men dominated politics, and even in places where we don't have those, I don't know specifically about Nepal, but in places where we don't have that, like the U.S., men still dominate politics, right? Like
I
there are
think
way
that's
more men
because of
politicians than there are
sexism.
women politicians.
And like
What is it?
there's so much sexism in the work environment. People are just harassing people. And even if like let's say we have to agree with this fact. Okay, let's say I agree with this fact. A woman, they have to be, extra tough. They need to be extra competent to be recognized in, let's say, the field of science or politics,
I agree, but
right?
that would limit their opportunities. That's my whole point.
I guess I'm just viewing it in a different way. I agree with you. It's not like I don't disagree, but I guess I'm seeing it more from the negative light. We should not, yeah, I don't think we should take it as a negative thing. I think we should like separate it and, just accept it as a whole holistic problem, and we should not single ourselves out from it.
Okay. If you recognize that there's oppression to be fought, I think we're in fine agreement. But I
Okay, I
appreciate you
can
coming up. I think
agree.
I'll move on to someone else just because I'm running a bit low on time. So I appreciate you.
Okay, thank you. Bye.
Hello.
Hello?
Hello. What
Can
did
you
you say?
hear me?
Guess your question. I can hear you. Yes.
Okay, sorry. Um, I don't. Okay. So I agree with most of the things, at least I'm assuming that you support or label yourself as. The
Yeah.
only
These are the
thing
things I
that,
agree with.
okay, I the death penalty one though actually piqued my interest. So, um, can you just like, so you're anti-death penalty, but can you just tell me why again? Sorry.
Because I don't think there's any good reason for it.
Okay, and why is that?
Because it doesn't do like I can list the things that aren't reasons, but like all things aren't reasons. But like by and large, right, it costs more for the taxpayer. It risks innocent people's lives. Um,
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't deter crime. It doesn't lower crime. So those things are the relevant ones.
Okay. So I'm actually very interested. You said it doesn't deter crime. Um,
Hmm.
is that like, is that like a educated, like, is
Yeah,
that
that's
like,
statistically true. Basically, everything has either shown that it doesn't deter crime or it deter crimes to an extraordinarily nominal level.
okay. So me personally, and the reason why I'm pro death penalty is, I know that, your feelings shouldn't dictate the law because the law doesn't really care about anyone's feelings. Like, sometimes it does. I guess we can factor in people's feelings because that's how we get the laws in the first place. But everything is a matter of opinion, and I guess in how I see it is, I guess the girl that was on here before and she left was talking about getting justice, and I guess your argument was that the person that they unalived is already dead, so there's nothing they really can do,
Well,
and that
but
it
the other thing is like justice is not vengeance. Like these concepts are very different. I think we really need to remember that. Like we can't just use justice in lieu when we really mean revenge or vengeance.
well,
Um, I,
vengeance
I do
vengeance
not
is
believe that
also,
revenge is just. I do not believe that vengeance is just.
yeah, the two are not the same. That's completely right. That the two are not the same. But it doesn't mean vengeance is also wrong. It's not inherently bad thing either.
Vengeance for the point of vengeance is not justice.
No,
Vengeance
it's
for the
not.
point of vengeance is actually is counterproductive to justice. So when we're talking about justice, we really need to tell me why it's just.
Well, I'm not saying that. I never said that it was justice. I said that she said it was justice. I'm
Yeah. So
saying,
what's your yeah?
well, I'm saying it. I was going to get into the point that yeah, it's basically revenge. It's vengeance, which is
Yeah.
very emotionally driven and emotionally charged, and that we can agree. That doesn't make it bad, and that doesn't make it wrong. I think that. So I actually was teetering on this myself because I'm like, okay, well, I'm black. So and then the in our country we make up 12% of the population. Now, like 41, I think it is, percent of death row inmates are African American, and that's very funny to me. And our not funny, it's not funny, but like I'm saying, it's very telling. So our justice system is already skewed in a way. So I was already considering like, okay, then maybe it's not the right thing. But to me, I always think it should be an option because I feel like there are some people out there that are just waste of space. They don't need to be on this planet. I don't think so. Like,
Then why spend more money on them?
I don't. It doesn't matter about money to me. This whole taxpayer argument is
But what do we,
completely
if
irrelevant
it's
to
about
me.
space, it's about money, it's about resources, right? Like I'm confused what you're saying here. Oh, they're a waste of space. Okay, then give them less resources. Like, yeah,
No,
then
I'm just
do
saying,
the least
like,
for them.
me personally, I think humanity would be better without scum on it. Like
How?
less scum in our
How? How
like
would it benefit
spaces.
society?
There are people in prison that may be in prison for a drug crime or a sex crime or something less so than whatever horrific act they committed. And those two people are not the same. And to me, I think that there is a certain point, more like morally speaking, where I just don't think a human should exist on this planet. It's just like, and it's not. I guess when I say waste of space,
I think in
it's
order for
like,
that to be true, you need to benefit. You need to show me who it benefits. Like, I don't like cool.
why?
But like, who does it benefit? Why? Why? Like, you can say, oh, well, this person's bad. Oh, I don't care about this person. Yeah, if you don't care about this person, do the least possible for them, right? Um, and I'm saying the death penalty is just doing more for them. So I'm just confused. Like, if it's really about like this person just shouldn't
The
be
death
here,
penalty
yeah,
isn't doing anything
then
but
do
killing
the least
them. It's
possible for them.
doing, obviously, it's a detriment to us, like, for because we're paying taxes to it. But that's only if you
Yeah.
value money so much more so. I think a rich person, if they have tons of money, they
Yes, I
wouldn't
value
mind spending
money
an
more
extra
than your
dollar.
feelings. Like, I don't know, but it also is logically incoherent, right? Like,
Why would it be
if
logically
it's
incoherent? It's
about,
it's morally based. It's literally the death penalty is just morally based. It's whether you want to like. I get that you're saying that if I support the death penalty, I'm inherently supporting the death of innocent people, but
yeah,
the
you are.
justice system is screwed. Period. It just is, and there's nothing like. There's a lot of things that we do in life. Like for example, I'm not a politician, or I'm just saying. I'm not saying for myself, but in generally speaking, I don't pick team blue or team red, right? But it's always like, okay, if you stay neutral, you're only helping the oppressor inadvertently. I'm not going to sit here and say, well, by me supporting one thing, I'm inadvertently supporting another thing because you're going to run circles around yourself. By doing nothing or doing
No,
something, you're
that's
always
not
going
my
to hurt another
argument. No, what
individual.
I'm saying is that if we did this, innocent people would die. If we did this, they would not. I'm not saying you're inadvertently doing it. I'm saying it will happen due to what you are advocating.
No, and you're totally correct. I'm not saying but that doesn't mean I have to care. Like I'm not
Okay,
saying
if you
that.
don't care about the death of innocent people, right, then like I don't see how your position is morally
No,
based.
no, okay, you're twisting my words. I'm not saying I don't care about the death of innocent people. I'm saying that, things do happen, things that are out of my control. However,
It's
if
not out of your control. We know innocent people will die, and we know that we could not let them die.
okay, but we also know that people that are also not very good can also die or will also die. It's not a black and white situation that you're trying to
Exactly, and what you're
connect to.
saying is you value spending more money on them and having them unalived, right, more than the death of these innocent people. You're saying that
That's
the death of innocent people is worth it.
I think they're okay. To get yourself in the predicament of death row, there's a lot of factors, right? And I think it is a case by case basis. You have to just look at the facts of the case itself, because if you're speaking too generally, it's like you're not going to get anywhere. You really have to look into the details of the case. But I am, you're right. An innocent person
Sorry, there was
may
a great
bite the
commenter.
bullet.
I agree, Wawa. One of those factors is being black, like 100%. One of
Yes,
those
no,
factors
I'm
is
I'm
racism,
very aware.
right?
It's
Like I'm just
why I
so
was
confused. I'm just so confused. You are saying, right, that the innocent deaths are worth it.
so
That's what you're
okay.
saying. Because
Here, let
inevitably the
me
system
let
will do
me let me start over, right? The death penalty on paper as a concept is like, eye for eye. You know what I'm saying? Like it's like,
makes
okay,
the whole
you killed
world blind.
somebody,
Yeah.
I kill you. Obviously, we live in America and other countries don't do it much better than we do, but it's a very complicated matter at hand. But if the
Wait, what do you mean we
statement
live in
here,
America? Wait, what was that
oh,
comment?
I'm sorry, I don't know if you live in, I live in America, so I
I
thought we
live
were
in
talking about
I'm from America, but
okay,
what do
so
you mean? Like how
I'm
is that
talking in the
relevant?
context of U.S. citizens, kind of those people that are not American in the chat. But, right, our justice system is extremely flawed. But if the statement here
Yes.
is you're anti-death penalty, are you
Yes.
are you anti-death penalty only systematically or just period? Like, what I'm
I
saying, like,
think so. I'll give you the conditions on which I would support the death penalty. If
okay,
there was some hypothetical world where you could prove that it reduced crime rates more than the people that died, so if you unalive 10 unalivers and that saved 200 innocent people, like
mm-hmm.
or any ratio that was positive, right? I'd agree with you. I think we should save innocent people. Like if you can reduce crime doing it, great. I think that's the winning card. If there was anything that could show that, I would say, okay, yeah, it's worth it systemically. Um, Even then, the risk of innocent people, we could actually have a calculated risk. The difficulty here is it doesn't. So, I
So,
mean,
okay, I
you're
have a
just
question.
literally unaliving people for the point of unaliving people, and some of which will be innocent. So you're just unaliving
So, I have a
innocent
question.
people for no purpose.
So, this has to boil down
What?
to money. This has to boil down to money and paying our taxes, right? Because if the argument is the death penalty kills innocent people and that there's no reason for it, there are also people in our jail cells right now that are innocent and are serving their sentences, sometimes life sentences, and they also should not be in there. But if I'm not saying that you support the system the way it is right now, but that is the only thing they can go into. It's either you're on death row and you die, or you're just kept in prison for the rest of your life.
Wait, but
Either
the point is, I
way,
advocate against that as well. Like, yeah, you're confused. You're trying to change the system to make it worse, right?
okay,
I'm
well,
trying
I'm
to
not.
change the system
I'm
to
not trying
make
to
it
change
better.
anything. I'm saying I support one of. I support the death penalty. That doesn't mean that I'm saying that the death penalty should be the first choice. That's not the
What do you
case.
mean? What do you mean by support the death penalty? What does that look like to you? Because any implementation of the death penalty, other than I support it theoretically, but never actually in practice, will unalive innocent people. Okay, that it
Yes, but
will
there's going
happen.
to be innocent people hurt regardless, no matter what.
No,
Like,
I know, and I'm saying I can do that calculus because you know what actually does reduce crimes? Some amount of punitive measures, right? We have data on this, right? We know that like I don't know, there's a distinction. So America's obviously over incarcerated. But like Sweden and Norway have really good data on this, and they went through how many years in prison or what type of fines reduce crime rate. That's really
hmm
interesting, right? Like putting people in jail just for like the least possible amount to get the exact same recidivism issue or the exact same crime rate, deterrence issue. That's interesting, and I'm saying yeah, that's true, and I'm willing to pay the innocent cost for that because crime rates going down saves innocent people. But you can't do the same calculus with death penalty because, well, you can. It's losing. Like it doesn't. That's the thing. Is the calculus fails.
yes, yes. Okay, so because like I'm not personally, I'm not here to be like a hero or take like the moral high ground in the sense of, well, I'm saving more people, so and so, because I feel like since you're trying to take feelings out of the account or out of the topic of discussion, or not even
But
out of the topic of
morals are different
discussion.
than feelings. Feelings you can have one day and not have the other. Morals, right, need to be consistent. They can be
Yes,
made up, but they need to be consistent.
there are people on this planet that do horrific things that I feel as though even if they're in prison for the rest of their lives, right? And like that's why I take the innocence out of the whole, because I don't like, yes, there are innocent people that are going to suffer to the hands of the death penalty. There's also innocent people behind bars, but everything is case
So
by
we should
case. Like,
reduce the amount of people behind bars until we can justify it.
no.
Like the same argument holds. Yes, like you're pretending like this is some hypocrisy here. No, like yes, and we should also reduce the people behind bars until we can justify it.
No, that didn't come out. That didn't come out. But I can see how you got that from that. Yes, but I'm just simply saying that I do think that disgusting, violent individuals should be put to death. And if you really cannot prove, or at the very least you're skeptical about if someone did the act that they did, then don't kill them. It's that
Well,
simple.
wait, but if there's a reasonable suspicion that it wasn't, they wouldn't be convicted in the first place. That's the bar for proof.
Well, like I said earlier, a lot of people on death row now are African American, and unfortunately, a lot of them are only there because this. I don't want to. I don't want to accuse anyone of
No, I'm
anything,
aware. I'm
but
aware, but my point is you're not saying anything new, right? Like there's an issue of conviction, point blank, period, right? And you're saying, well, if there's actually an issue with conviction, right, then we shouldn't kill them. Well, that's all cases. Or it's no cases, but we know it's not no cases because some slip through. So it must be all cases then that there's an issue.
okay. So very interesting. So, what would be the point of keeping said person alive? Like, it doesn't matter what they did,
Save
the crime
taxpayer
they did,
money,
right?
not risk having an innocent person, ability to have exculpatory evidence come out. Those are three immediate, direct positives.
Okay, so taxpayer money. We're just gonna not agree on that because it's
You
it's
don't care
about
about
money,
taxpayer money?
and I could not give up. I honestly I don't care that much about, like, cause like, yes, taxes suck, but like it's whatever, to be honest. Like, and especially since
I
I
mean, I think
believe.
spending money on unalivers is wrong. Like, I think if anything, like we should spend less money on them, right? Like, I don't understand how you can be like, oh, you can unalive them, but
I mean,
like,
yes, but at the same
spending
time, there are
millions on
people
them
who have
doesn't
been.
matter. Like, I don't understand.
There are no, but there are people who have been killed in history who did crimes that we can prove, and
Well,
to
you
me
can prove
personally.
any crime. Wait, but you can prove any crime. This is made up, right? Read a single legal case and come out of it
Oh
saying
my
that
god,
there
oh my
isn't
god. If
any
you're gonna go,
possible.
okay, listen. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry because I respect the fact that you're debating with me and that the technical perspective of it is that, well, you can't really prove 100% if but let's be so fucking for real. If someone committed a
Have you
crime
ever read a
and we
legal
like, no,
case?
like, you're not gonna sit here and say, well, you can't really prove that Ted Bundy did so and so and so, like, come on, be so for real. I
Wait,
understand
have
what
you
you're
ever
trying to
have you ever
say.
read any single legal case?
Listen,
And
well, I'm not. No.
No,
I'm
you
not
haven't.
trying to.
You
I
haven't
know
because
what you're saying. I've heard it because you
it's
debated with
just
other people.
talk to a lawyer and ask them if they could find a argument to get this person out of it, at
The
least in some way, right? Speak to a lawyer, and you will come out of it and be like, wow.
there's
There is always going to be an evidentiary issue. This is a delusion of people that haven't looked into the justice system, right? It is there is nothing as 100%. No one comes out of a courtroom being like, there's no way. Okay. It is just it's
there
just not true.
are
If you
like
want to
there are
say, tell me how you would change this justice system, that's cool. Tell me how you would pick these people, that's cool, right? But you're not doing that. You're
no, we're
engaging
not
in
here
this
because we're
delusion
not
that
here to
there's this small subcategory that somehow
we're
there's no counter evidence.
we're not here to debate, or at the very least, we're not here to debate. Like, or I'm not trying to sit here and convince you how I would change the system. That's not what the point of this is. This is why this is me telling you why I feel as though the death penalty, or at the very least, I support it personally. But I'm saying, like, yes, I understand what you're saying. With there's no case that exists where you can 100% prove, but it's still bullshit. Like, there's people that we know did a crime. We know in big quotations, but we know nonetheless. Like, um, it's like, yes, there's not really a specific language to use here to basically say that you're wrong, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you're right. Like, people do horrific things all the time, period. And if I
I
whipped
agree,
up
but
my
I'm
phone,
asked like the thing is you just need to accept innocent people will die,
I
right?
don't.
Like
Okay,
there's no the point of like this
I know
argument
that
is
though.
like
I
it's
know that.
unavoidable.
I know
Okay,
that. I didn't say
so are
that it
you saying
wasn't.
the innocent people
But there's
dying is
innocent
worth it?
people in everything. You have to make
So
sacrifices sometimes.
I'm asking you, you have a choice. Either implement a system that will unalive innocent people or don't. Okay? So I'm asking you, right,
So
is it worth it?
our justice system is screwed to hell and back. And there is no perfect system that exists out here. You literally cannot say, to me anyways, you literally cannot say, well, you're supporting a system that does this. The system is bad. All of it together.
Yeah, but you need to
As a
justify.
conglomerate,
If
yes,
you ask me
no,
why I
but there
believe
is,
you,
you're
you
not going
need
to
to
not hurt
justify it.
anyone. You're not going to not hurt anyone, whether they're in prison for the rest of their lives, whether you support, let's say I support incarceration to the maximum degree, and it's like, but
But the
our
point
justice
is, I
system
can
puts,
justify why I should have this level of punitive measures, right?
okay, but you're taking
You
out.
can't.
Yes, I can.
Because I can tell you a
I'm
benefit of it.
telling you
I
why.
can tell you which innocent people. I can go innocent life to innocent life. This is saving more innocent lives. Cool.
You're using statistics and numbers as if that always matters, though. To some people, it does not. As like, I'm literally telling you that the taxpayer dollars and the innocence does not matter when someone's family just got murdered. Like, I understand what you're saying, and you're trying to take feelings out of the account of it, and that the justice system can't always diddle daddle with feelings. But the reason why we got these laws, if we didn't care about people's feelings, and me bringing back up the African Americans incarcerated and everything like that, segregation. My people marched for to have rights just like white people did, or what's happening with or what goes on with other races like Latinos or Native Americans and indigenous people. We have feelings. Feelings matter because they make up our laws. So what I'm saying
I'm
is
not saying
that
feelings don't matter. Just to be very clear,
no, but you said that
right?
before. Is what
I'm
I'm saying.
saying your
You already
morals
have
can be
said that.
based on feelings, but they need to be consistent.
Well, I got on the live because when you were debating with, and I know I shouldn't bring other people up, but when you were debating with the girl, she was talking about feelings. You said, well, feelings don't really fucking matter. But I'm
She
saying that
was
it
talking
does.
very specifically about a certain subcat. If you're talking about like moral intuitions, right, that inform these ideas, they are feelings, yes. But the problem with what she was doing was she was saying because someone is mad at something, they should be able to unalive them. And I'm saying, well, no, that's not what we should base
Well,
our justice.
I think it was a lot less simple than that. I mean, if you're
Yeah, it
trying to
was,
kill
but
me,
I'm
I'm going
saying
to kill you. What do you mean? Like,
that
don't.
discussion is untrue. I'm saying that's wrong. We shouldn't base entire incarcerations on this because then obviously we would have the Dahmer problem where, okay, well, he has fans. People are going to be upset, really upset, if he gets unalived. Do we care? No.
Okay, yes, and in that moment you have to pick. I guess I know it's like oh well, pick whose feelings you care about more. I'm not caring for the people who are supporting the murderers like feelings. Like I don't like those people are
But you need
insane
to
to
tell
me.
me why then.
Murder is bad. So if you support a murderer, then I'm not going to support you. Like, what do you like? I don't know
But
what you want me to say.
the point wait, but the government is murdering.
Yes,
You realize that,
yes,
right?
and we are, and unfortunately, we can't. There's not much we can do about that right now. Like there is
You're
no
advocating that the government murders people.
the the government hurts a lot of individuals, not just by the death penalty. But if I was going to literally sit here and try to fix every single individual problem, it's never going to happen because it's literally
All
impossible.
I'm saying is you shouldn't make it worse.
Okay, yeah,
The
but
death
there are.
penalty makes the system worse.
I don't agree. I don't agree because I think
Okay,
that there
in
are.
what way does it benefit the system?
Because
What is it?
people.
Give me okay. I don't want just your woo-woo ideas of justice. That's great. Give me a material benefit.
Okay, so my question to you, I'm going to ask this real quick. How many more people are proven to die because, or innocent people are proven, or proven innocent, right? Compared to people that were not innocent, or at the very least, that because that's not even like something you can actually measure. I don't think. But I'm trying to
It's
think
roughly
like.
4% of. Oh, wait, no. So I
So you
believe
said
the those who were exonerated was roughly 4%, and that's a
4%.
conservative
Okay,
estimate
that's
according
that's a
to
very low
death penalty
percentage. That's a
benevolence.
very low percentage. So you're telling me like I should like yes, it's sad that those people were innocent and they died
I
and
need
we
to know
killed them.
why you want to
Give me a
murder
second.
innocent people. Like it doesn't matter how many. I
I
need you to
understand.
justify.
Sorry, I'm not talking to you. So one second. I know. Hold on 1 second. All right, continue. Sorry.
I'm just asking you why you don't like why killing innocent people is okay. I don't care if
Innocent.
it's a small amount of innocent
Well, my
people.
thing is
Also,
that my
4%
thing.
is massive, by the way, right? Like 4% is massive in terms of false incarcerations. Like it's a monstrosity that it was one person, right? It is a national shame that it's 4%. So I'm asking you why it is acceptable. Tell me the material benefit, because I can tell you the material loss,
Okay,
right?
you're
I
talking
can
about
tell you
material.
who it's
Okay, but you're
hurting.
talking
I
about
can
material
point to the
benefit when that's
families
not
that it's
something I'm.
destroyed.
That is not something that I'm arguing, though. Like I'm telling you that innocent people, no matter what the case may be, are going to get hurt or have something undeserving happen to them, whether it is long time incarceration or not. Like you said, we've only done a handful, not a handful, but like a thousand and something like actual like death penalty or executions in the past 100 years. So 4% to me is well, I don't even know how I'm going to do that math, so I'm not going to attempt it. But I mean that means that we've gotten rid of a lot of people that were quote unquote because since you can't prove anything in um, guilty. Then we have innocent people, and that's something. Well, yes, we're paying for that, and it's in your saying
But
that it's
you're
making things
arguing
worse.
to make it
It's
worse.
not
A
that big
great
of a.
conflict. But you're arguing to make it worse.
I'm
So if I have a bad system and I have two choices, one to leave it alone and one to make it worse,
You're telling me
which
it
should
makes
I
it
choose?
worse because of
It kills
factors
more people.
that are so. Oh my god. It's killing people that it's like on more times than not, it kills people that needs that me personally, I feel as though deserve it, is what I'm saying.
They can
Like
deserve
these
it all you
people
want. Tell me the material benefit. Can you tell me a single material benefit?
I don't. Okay, so if we're going to talk about the material benefit of the death penalty, I never came on here to say that there was no or there is a material benefit. I never said that. Not once that came out my mouth. I never said that you're not right about the paying dollars, but you brought up innocent people, and that's not really. I don't understand why that even is a because like there again, no matter what, an innocent person is going like you literally they're boiling down the debate to okay, this person is innocent. So, innocent person, would you rather live and rot in prison or die? And if I was an innocent person in that case, I'm not going to speak on the behalf of innocent people that are literally incarcerated, but as like that's like a personal choice. That's not a choice they can make,
But
but it's like
but
a
the
personal
thing is
decision.
this is not true. Because the death penalty does more than just kill them, an innocent person. It also makes it impossible for them ever to not be dead. So you understand that, right? Is when we find exculpatory evidence of someone that died from the death penalty, we can't do anything. When we find exculpatory evidence from a person who is still in prison, we can reduce the sentence by letting them out. So that's not true. It's more than that. You have to know that.
Okay. Okay. So I guess that's fair. That makes sense. I mean, but like that doesn't that does not deter, or I guess what I should say is that that doesn't really make that much of a big difference. Like the system, like in and of itself, if we were to get rid of it, then the only choice, or I guess for any grieving family, if their loved one was unalived, then the only choice would be, okay, well, you can send this guy to the prison for the rest of his life. And sometimes that doesn't even happen. And, the system is messed up in that way. But, like, it's, like, when you talk about government systems, it's literally like, okay, well, you're picking the best bad thing. So it's like,
Yep, and
yes.
you're not telling me why your bad thing is best.
Well, I'm saying that it should be an option. No, I'm saying I didn't say that it's better. I'm saying that it's
die. You're saying they deserve to die. Very cool, right?
But I'm not saying that it's better.
I'm saying the innocent families that are destroyed when we kill innocent people deserve for not to happen. And when you don't give me a reason that they deserve to die, it is impossible to weigh those.
Okay, but sir, there's literally either way, right? If the innocent person is incarcerated, whether it be for a life sentence or for the rest of their lives or dead, there is no difference. There is literally no difference. Maybe that, maybe
I told you that there is. That's not true. Wait, no. You can't say there's a
material difference is what you keep bringing up to me, but I'm literally like, okay.
There is a material difference.
Okay, yeah, there is a material difference. I didn't say that there wasn't. I'm saying there's no there's no difference in terms of perspective, though. Like for the grieving family, period. Like I feel.
But the grieving family isn't all we care about.
I'm saying that I didn't say the death penalty was better. It's obviously incredibly flawed, and it sucks that it is. But I feel like it should be an option, and I feel like it should be present within our structure. And there's no me saying, well, the death penalty shall be eradicated or should be eradicated because there's no material benefit. That's obviously true.
Well, there's a material harm. When you say it should be present, you're accepting a material harm. You are accepting an innocent person's death. You are accepting. You
keep on harping on the fact that it's an innocent person's death, and I'm literally telling you that does not matter. I understand that they're innocent. I'm telling you, I'm telling they're innocent.
Not true.
The difference
you are accepting
between
an innocent person's death.
Yes. But the difference is that there's not enough innocent.
You would need an actual argument. You don't actually have an argument other than I don't really care.
There's no innocent.
Or I just feel this way. If you just feel this way, there's nothing to discuss. It can be valid. It can be true. Right? I can go into therapy speak for you if you want to feel validated.
That's not the case,
right?
though. The innocent people.
But it doesn't actually mean. It doesn't mean we can discuss anything. Right? Do you have anything I could conceivably disagree with?
I literally already told you multiple times you're trying to ignore the fact. You literally brought feelings into to take feelings out of the argument, even though that's the main argument for the system. That does not make sense. You can't tell me, oh, okay, well, the reason that you're saying this is valid, even though it is a reason nonetheless. You're saying it's about material things, but I'm telling you that sometimes material things don't matter to people. I don't understand why you're trying to say, well, there's nothing to argue here.
Once again,
the argument is that the death penalty should be a thing versus the death penalty should not be a thing. I'm telling you why.
That's not an argument. That's a proposition.
Literally the debate you put on the list here is your anti-death penalty. I asked you why. You said you listed all of these reasons, and most of them are material. The one that wasn't that I could actually debate against was the innocence versus non-innocence. You're saying, well, innocents are going to get harmed. I'm saying, well, yes, but it's not, to me, there's not that big of a difference between, the people that are actually guilty and being executed versus the people that are actually innocent. You're also saying, well, then you accept that innocent people are going to die. I'm saying that innocent people are going to be harmed regardless of the fact whether they're dead or not. So you can't sit here and say, well, then there's nothing to debate because I'm really debating on if I had nothing to talk about.
But you haven't actually responded to the claim. The point is innocent people will die. And you're saying, well, yeah, but they'll face another harm otherwise. Great. The question is whether that harm is greater. The answer is no. So then I can just reframe the point is they'll die and that will be worse than what would happen otherwise, which is true. It would be worse
Why?
than
Okay,
what would happen
but
otherwise.
that being true is literally determinant on how you feel. Like, there's no.
No,
You're
it's
saying
not
it'd be
though. It's
for
not
the rest
though.
of the
Because
population.
that's
It
just
might be
not
impactful.
true. That's
Okay,
just not
but you're
true.
saying for the rest of the population and for the people that are paying the tax dollars, it might be worse, maybe financially or
No, I'm
so on and so
saying
forth.
we
But
if
I'm
we give
saying for the
someone in
people
a no,
involved, the
one
people
second.
involved
That's
that
not what I'm
deserve.
saying. One second. What I said is it will be worse, especially if the like euthanasia exists. Okay, so given the existence of
No, it would
euthanasia,
not, Sydney. I'm so sorry.
forcing someone to be unalived will always be worse than giving a choice of life in prison or unalive yourself. Okay, that will always be worse. You can't consistently um, deny that giving people the choice of where they live or die is always going to be worse. Unless you can give me an instance where taking someone's choice away will turn out better.
I'm sorry. I'd like that for a second. You're saying taking away their choice, like the person who is standing to be executed.
Yeah.
Obviously, they don't have a choice. But like, because I'm not trying to
Exactly.
argue
So it will always turn out worse. It is always more harmful.
what. But okay. If you're debating with me to change my mind, then let me know why. One more time. Sorry. Reiterate for me why it would be harmful for that person to not have a choice in that instance.
Well, the thing is the options are either death penalty or life in prison.
Mm-hmm.
It will always be worse to implement the death penalty because if you are in life in prison, assuming the existence of euthanasia, you have that choice. So the question is whether we force it or they have the choice. And the question is, it's pretty obvious that them having the choice would produce better results because they know what they want more. They know what is less harmful to them.
So I'm taking how they, feel into account. They're literally dying. They're literally going to die. So it's like I'm like, well, yes, sure, like that's a cute, like a cute little thing that we can do. Like I don't understand like why we would do it. Like
You're
you're going
causing
to die
harm to
anyways.
innocent people.
I okay, so yeah, this is obviously is going to run in circles. I'm saying, well,
Because you have
imprisonment
no
her.
response to it. You
No, I have
advocating
a
this
response.
policy.
I'm telling you the response, and you just failed to
You're
like
telling me that
to.
the harm isn't big enough.
I'm telling you that no matter what, like innocent people are going to get hurt. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, but
Whether
what
they're
I'm
dead or not,
saying is
they're going to get
yes,
hurt.
yes, but the hurt will be bigger.
Okay, but my argument is what I'm
That's
telling
like
you
saying
is
I
not that.
shouldn't. No, that's so
No,
stupid.
no, no,
That's
no,
like saying I shouldn't
sir.
push someone out of the
I
road
am
because
not
either
telling
way they're
you.
gonna get hurt. Either
I'm
they
not
fall
tell.
over or get hit by a car. Yes, no, we can take. Like, what are you talking about?
What
Of
I'm not
course, I
telling
can
you.
say
You're
this
not
will cause more harm.
Sir, you're not understanding. I'm saying that while yes, the innocent people are going to get hurt regardless, but I don't think that should exclude the death penalty as an option. That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying that it's better. I'm not saying that it's worse. You can debate with yourself about whether it's good, like better or worse for our
I'm saying
us
the
as a
fact that
society
it's
as a
worse
whole.
should
But
exclude it.
robbing people of the option, no. I don't like people. I think that there are people out there, whether you call it vengeance or justice or vigilante, being a vigilante. There are people out there that do such like incredibly disgusting and vile acts that, yeah, if that person dies, I wouldn't blink an eye. And while yes, it sucks that there's people that are innocent that are on death row, innocent people, because our system does not care about us, our government does not care about us. Innocent people literally are getting the short end of the stick every day. So like
Yeah, but you're giving them a
that's
shorter
literally
end
it.
of the stick. This is like,
It
how can
doesn't
you
matter
not
how
see
short
that?
the stick is. The stick is a stick. Like it's
You
like
don't
I
think that?
don't
Oh
know what
wait, that's
it's
so
there.
dumb.
It's
Are you
present
telling me?
though. Like
Are
it
you
needs.
telling? This is nonsense. Are you telling me that the diff? Are you telling me that like a person who is given the death penalty, that's the same amount of pain, suffering, hurt across the board as a person who is given life in prison and then is
The death
you
penalty
know
doesn't happen at nearly
is
enough
let
for
out?
that. But the death penalty doesn't happen nearly enough for that to even like that question to be warranted. I'm sorry. Like there's so many more people that are innocent and behind
It
bars
doesn't
and will
matter
be
the
there for the rest of their lives
scale.
versus the people
It
that are death
doesn't matter
penalty.
the scale. Like, that's like if I
There,
stab someone and I'm like, you're just one
you're saying
person.
it doesn't matter the scale, but you're literally telling me that 4% people, innocent people, will die,
Yeah, it
which
doesn't matter the scale. This is so dumb. If I stab someone, right? And then I'm like, you're just one guy. Like, it doesn't really matter. I didn't really do anything that bad.
Okay, but you're trying to take context out where context is always needed. Like a death penalty is always a contextual thing. It's never gonna not. It's never gonna be a general thing. Cases matter. We have cases for a reason, and even though I know our system is flawed,
What do you
it's
mean
like
cases matter? That's a nonsense
no,
statement.
they do, and the context behind the situation on why the person is even on on the death penalty or why they're in prison for the rest of their lives does matter. And I'm saying like if you're trying to rob the context out of it, you're gonna be an unhappy person because while you can say that yes, I'm less empathetic because innocent people will die, but I understand, and I'm literally here to reason and say that there's going to be innocent people that are harmed on both sides, no matter what. But what I'm trying to tell
But
you is
that's
that
not a response. That's not a response.
because
It doesn't
we
matter.
don't do the death we don't do
This
the death
doesn't
penalty
matter.
nearly
Your
enough to
response
say
is
that the context
wrong.
doesn't
That's my
matter.
response to it. Your response is wrong. The idea that harm will happen in either side is not an argument.
But this argument is literally inherently opinionated. Like it just
No,
is.
no, no.
This
It
is
can't
not
be
a
your
wrong or
opinion that
versus
you're
right
right.
thing. Like
It
you
does
can.
not. It objectively does not matter that harm will happen on both sides. It does not. It is not a response to the. It is an entire and utter non sequitur.
No, but this debate, like the debate of whether a death penalty should be there or not, and unless you can bring into material things all you want, but at the end of the day, it's someone's
But
feelings
the
versus the
fact
other
that
person's
harm is
feelings.
caused on either sides is not relevant.
Sorry, repeat that for me.
The fact that harm is caused regardless is not relevant.
It quite literally is because you're
It is
telling me
not
that
relevant to the
if you're
discussion.
going to
If
bring up
I
the fact that
say no,
innocent
no,
people
if
are
I say
harmed, then
you are
I'm going to
causing,
say, well,
one
that's
second. If I
literally
say you are no, no, no. If I say you are causing more harm, right? And then you say, but harm would be caused either way. That is a non sequitur.
no.
Because I did not contest that harm was happening regardless. All I
Okay,
said is
so
that more harm is being caused.
and
It
explain
is
to
an
me
entire non sequitur.
what. So
It
what
is
is the
drastically fallacious.
so the innocent people that are being killed versus the innocent people that are in prison. Because if the death penalty is not used as much as incarceration, the innocent people are incarceration or in incarceration. We're helping them more by doing what?
What? The options are with
No, like
any given person.
if you're
Say there are like 200 people up for death row. The options are we give them the death penalty, right? They all die. Or we give them life in prison and 8% of them are innocent. Okay? And then maybe half of those we find exculpatory evidence. So we save 4 people's lives from incarceration even. Okay? You're saying that scenario, okay, is equal or unequivocally equal as the first scenario where they all die.
No,
4 of them get to live their life happily,
I'm
right?
saying
After incarceration with their
Yeah, keep
family
going.
and children, right? And then in the other case, none of them do. None of them even get to experience life more. Tell me how that is enough for you to roll your eyes at and say, no, harm happens either way.
Well, I'm saying that it's never going to be a black and white situation, but I'm saying that
Meaningless. That's
the
a
death
meaningless
penalty
statement. Because I
the
never
death
said it
penalty
would. This is why I say it's meaningless, because I never said it would be black and white.
Well, no, but you make it seem like it's black and white because you quite or maybe
I give
this is the way
examples.
that I'm perceiving it, but the death penalty is not used as much. Like we've established that the death penalty.
It doesn't matter how much this happens. It doesn't matter how many. It doesn't matter if it's 200
Yes, but if you
or
care about
50,
innocent people so
right?
much,
The
then you would care
statistics
about
hold.
Okay, but if you care about innocent people so much, is what I'm saying. If you care about them so much, there are so many people incarcerated and innocent, whether they're dead or not. I think doesn't really matter unless you bring in material things. And to that I say, well, I'm not
Unless
talking
we
about
live in a
material things
material
because I
world,
don't
what
care
else
about the
would I
material
bring
things.
in?
I think that the what?
We live in a material world. What else would I bring in?
Okay, that does not mean that I have to literally. You're telling me I should care
Unless
about
I
things
care
that I
that they
don't
can
though.
live their lives happily with their family and
I'm
friends
saying
outside
that
of
context
bondage.
literally
Unless
matters.
I
No
don't want
matter
to
how
put them
many
in
numbers,
enslavement,
no
like
matter
happens.
how
Like, what are you talking about?
no matter how many numbers you plug in, no matter how much you want to tell me that tax paying, dollars matter and it's worse for
Maybe
us
not
if
killing
we could.
innocent people, heaven forbid,
Listen,
is
listen.
bad.
But you're saying that you care about innocent people so much, but there's more innocent people incarcerated and rotting in prison versus innocent people that are supposedly on death row. So that doesn't make any sense to me. If you're trying to say that
Am I
material,
advocating that they should rot in prison?
I never
No.
said. I never told.
So then it's
I'm just
irrelevant.
by
This
your
is non
statement, you are
sequitur, part
anti-death
10.
penalty, and I'm letting you know
I
that
am. So I
I'm.
think we shouldn't kill them. I think it would be better to let them
There is.
rot in prison than kill them. That's all I'm saying.
Okay, but that's
It's not contentious.
but then you bring it to feel that's how you feel. That's your opinion, but it's an
No, no,
emotional.
no. I want you to tell me. I want
It's
you to tell
emotionally
me.
charged. It's emotionally charged.
No, no. It's objectively true.
It's objectively
I
true,
want
but
you
then
to
that's
tell.
not. Then there wouldn't be a debate.
I want you to tell me a single case. Give me an individual where the death penalty is less harmful than life in prison.
Sorry, say that. Repeat that for me one more
Give
time.
me a single case where the death penalty is less harmful than the life in
Okay,
prison.
so I'm not. Not even personally, because it's not a personal matter, but there's not a case that can come to mind because I'm not here to talk about individual cases, but I mean, like
Give me a
I'm saying, like
hypothetical
context,
case.
and where it's better for them to like the innocent person, like we're talking about innocent people, correct?
No, I don't care. Innocent, guilty, dumb, like I don't care. Give me a single hypothetical case, given that euthanasia is available, where the death penalty causes less harm.
Okay, so I'm going to say this. So if I'm going, okay, let's say the person is guilty. In my eyes, right? This person unalived my family, my loved one, whatever the case may be.
Less harm, let me clarify, less harm to the criminal.
My, and they're going to like okay, the criminal's like I would rather like am I supposed to put my like be in the perspective of the criminal? Like are you telling me to
I want you
be
to
in their
tell me
shoes?
a case where there is just more harm caused to the criminal without the death penalty, given that euthanasia exists.
Okay, it's either if I'm the criminal, right, and I'm guilty of a crime, it's either I live, and while it may not be the best circumstances, I'm alive at the very least, or I'm dead. And for that, I'm saying, well, people have different beliefs, people have different choices, humans are
So
humans.
can you
You know what I'm
give?
saying?
So are you conceding that the death penalty is going to cause more harm, right? Or can you give me a single person, a single case, a single belief that would lead you to
I'm
believe that the
saying
death
it should be
penalty
an option. Like
is
a lot of people that
I
we've
don't
killed.
want a cop-out answer. I want you to give me a person. I want you to give me a hypothetical person with hypothetical beliefs, okay, that would lead to this conclusion.
That the death penalty is something that
cause them less harm.
Why? Okay, wait. I'm confused on how we even got here because I'm saying, why am I supposed to care about whether the criminal is being harmed or not if they're guilty? Because I thought we were talking about innocent people. So if they're guilty,
I'm saying I don't really care. I'm saying I don't really care.
Well,
but
then don't bring up the fact
let's
that you
change it to innocent to keep it on the made-up topic that you're on. Innocent
don't bring
people.
up no.
Can you tell
Okay,
me a
because I'm not
single
being
case?
delirious. I'm
Can
not
you
being
tell me a single
delusional.
case where the
You
like
brought up
killing an
innocent
person
people
is better than
though.
keeping
So
them alive
if you're
to
going
death
to argue, about innocent people, you can't say that you don't care. It's whether they're guilty or not. If you're saying that it's irrelevant, then like what do you want me to what do you want me to say? Then don't bring it up. Like I'm sorry. Like if I'm talking about
Can you answer the question?
The question doesn't make any sense. It literally doesn't make any sense. Because like
Okay.
we weren't.
I don't know. I'll repeat it for a fourth time. See if it makes sense. Give me a single hypothetical case where implementing the death penalty reduces the harm on the criminal.
That's like harm, physical harm. I don't know what like this.
Do you understand the words that I said and my meaning by them?
You're saying how does the death penalty, how it
asked?
being implemented, you know, lessens the harm done to the individual
I'm not saying.
criminal.
I'm asking a question. Did you understand that question that I asked?
But it's literally about how you view. It's literally about how you view death in and of itself, which is I'm not here to talk about. Like and
I
if you want to,
disagree. So
you
let's
wanna.
talk about perceived harm then. Perceived harm of the victim. No, not of the victim, of the criminal. Can
There's
you
so
give
much.
me a case where
There's so
the
many disgusting
criminal
things that
has
can happen
less
inside of
perceived
prison.
harm?
But there's so many disgusting things that can happen inside of prison that can harm them. Whether it them, getting into a physical or verbal altercations or being a victim of SA. If we're caring about the criminal so much, if the person is guilty or not, whether the case may be, prison is not a happy place. So like you're telling me, well, we could take death into
But here's
death
my
penalty into
thing. This is why
consideration,
I
but both are
qualified it with euthanasia. If it is less happy than not existing, they have that option. So all cases in which it is less happy than not existing, they have that option. So once again,
okay. But
I'm
again, my
telling
argument
you
was that the
that
option
they
should be
have
there.
choice.
The option should be
It
there.
will always either increase harm or have no effect. Because either they wanted to
Whether
die anyway, or they will go on living as far as they want and then stop it.
Okay, yeah, but you're trying to make my argument seem as though I said that it would not cause harm. I'm saying obviously you're killing people, so it's going to cause harm to
No,
someone.
that's
Someone's
not what
going
I'm
to get
saying.
hurt.
It's false. That's a straw man. I did not say that you believed it would cause no harm. What I'm saying is that you know it will cause more harm, and
Yes,
somehow
and
you're trying to
that's
slip the way
something
out.
That's something I'm willing to what? That's something I think that we should have. I think that it's a harmful quote unquote option.
Yeah, you're willing to cause more harm, even to innocent people. So you're muted. But I think this isn't going very far. So I think if he comes back, I'll give him final comments, and then I'll leave. Okay, my loves. Thank you so much for following me. Thank you so much for the people that follow my YouTube. Much love and slayness. And yeah, do follow my YouTube. It really does help quite a lot. And it's linked in my bio. And yeah, all right. Peace out.